those things
There you go.
that call
There you go.
kiosks in the middle of the mall.
Like a kiosk, yeah.
The kiosk.
I had it.
And they always, I said,
Windbreaker,
I don't
but
need to talk to him. He said, well, miss, you want,
it
I
had
said,
too
I
many
don't know.
wrinkles in my
He
hand.
said,
Let me wear it.
he pulled it out, he said, oh, my
Yeah,
God.
actually pulled this me and threw this in the wash the other day, Sunday.
And that was
Yeah,
it.
Sunday, I kind of,
The rest
there it
is
is.
history.
Threw it in the washer. So I keep this one in the car.
Yeah.
And keep it in the car just in case.
It's a little chilly out there, so.
Yeah.
Now, see, that's not true.
Yeah, it's a little
See,
nippy.
this is how. What we just said, look at what he just said. And that's the citizen. Now, look at what he said about
Oh,
the
it was black, yeah, it was black out, I saw it.
Yeah, she, the town that care about her.
Yeah.
See, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's her fault.
Must be Katrina's fault.
I'm gonna make him feel like an idiot right now, because everything he said was wrong. Everything on here is his fault, and not the town. May I learn?
Hi, good evening.
I want to read something. No, get up. Oh,
That's good.
this is how this information get out. Start reading from there, and we're trying to get some water from Michelle, and look what he's saying. Keep going. See, everything he said is wrong. Look how long you've been here. Long anyway. See?
Yeah, if people do it and it's like,
But yeah, blame everybody but yourself.
yeah. All you can do is make information available.
Huh?
So all you can do is make information available.
Make him look like an idiot. As long as he's been here, he should be on it because he doesn't want to.
Okay.
That
So,
sounds like everything you said is wrong.
I'm not sure. She's gonna be,
Okay,
alrighty, so just let us know. We're ready.
I'm ready.
Good evening. For those who are with us online, we thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get started in just a moment. As soon as Councilman Smith rejoins the dais, we'll get started. And thank you so much for your patience as we endeavor to get started in just about 30 seconds. Thanks so much. Just as we're waiting, we're going to ask if you have your cell phones or any other communication device, if you just put those on vibrate, and I'll do the same, and we'll get started.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Okay. Again, we'd like to thank you so much for your patience, and we have now had everyone rejoin the dais. So at this time, we're going to get started with the Altoona Mangonia Park regular town council meeting of December 1st, 2020. Roll call, please.
Mayor Auberry.
Here.
Vice Mayor Johnson. Here. Councilmember Green.
Here.
Councilmember McConnell.
Here.
And Councilman Smith.
Here.
Thanks so much. At this time, let us stand for our invocation, please. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you again for this opportunity presented for us to be able to come and make decisions on behalf of those that we have been elected and or appointed to serve. We pray and ask that everything that we say and do here would be pleasing, and not only that, but that it would advance the agenda of the town and the town only. Continue to bless us, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Our pledge of allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. You may be seated. At this time, the chair would like to just take a personal privilege and just welcome. We have a very distinguished guest with us. We always want to honor all of our elected officials who visit. We have Amara Hardy, who used to serve as a council member in the beautiful city of Lake Worth and is now our representative there at the House. And thank you so much for attending with us. We appreciate your attendance. And thank you. And we look forward to working with you there up at the big house in Tallahassee. So thanks so much. Okay, so at this time, we'll attend to our agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or substitutions to the agenda?
No, sir.
Thank you so much. Seeing that there are no changes to the agenda, motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, so move that we approve the agenda at this time.
Second.
Has been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It is carried. Thanks so much. And of course, we have our consent agenda as well, and there's no items for the consent agenda, so we will continue on in our agenda as presented. Our next item, of course, is our proclamations and presentations. Item 4, we have a presentation about the town manager regarding the utility rate increase proposal. Okay?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Town Council, good evening, and thank you for your time this evening. This is something that we spoke about extensively throughout the summer in our budget workshops, and we took a pause during the budget process to make sure that we got this out into the public, and we've done that. So this is designed to give you public comments on this, but I can tell you that the water would be representing a 1% increase. That's a 1% increase on the base rate and on consumption, and that would also be the same for the fire line. And on the sewer side, this represents an increase from $5.16 to $6.15. All of this is designed to keep up with inflation and also to help us with our capital projects and to keep up with the sewage rate that we're currently paying. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments that we have from the dais? From the dais here, and then we'll go out to the public. Okay. Any council comments or questions?
Even though we object to it all, we keep up with inflation and workshop, and we will get this coming down.
Councilman, could you talk in your mic?
I apologize, sorry. I had it, but I must break. Can you hear me now? Even though you had just explained to us that this was coming, the rates, can you kind of re-explain over, maybe not in depth, I think I missed some things, please.
Certainly. I believe it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, council took a position on the water side of things that we would look at doing some increment increases each year, and I think the decided amount was 1%, but we would review it each year, and that's what we've done there.
Okay.
Of course, everyone knows that we pay another entity for our sewage pass-through.
Okay.
And this represents not only that, but also some capital needs. For example, just a couple of weeks ago, and Roosevelt's here, he can speak more on it, but at one of our lift stations, we had 2 pumps go down. And that's $7,000, or $7,200 actually. And those are non-budgeted expenditures. Even though we do build into our budget for emergencies, this happened at a time we weren't expecting it, so we had to replace that. So the increase on the sewer side is because things are just so expensive, and because of the other entity that we're paying for sewage pass-through. And I hope that answered that.
Okay, so I understand, and I understand from the get-go that this is to absorb cost or cushion. And so thank you for clarifying that. My second question then, how did we go about as a town entity getting the information out of the increase to the residents and the businesses? And what was the time frame when you did it, and how did you do it?
Okay, on our November water bills, we advertised tonight's meeting. We also spoke about it at both meetings in November. And we actually did some door-to-door flyers throughout town, and we also put it on our website.
And with all those different levels of doing, did we get any feedback from the residents before we got to this point? Or did we get any calls, I should say?
Well, I can say, I'm sorry.
Did we get any calls after we went through those methods of getting the word out of the rate increasing?
Well, just speaking for the manager, I had a couple of calls and kind of went through everything I just went through with you. The couple of people that I spoke to seemed to be relatively satisfied with what I was saying. They understood, especially on the sewer side. And as I'm in one of the neighborhoods, I got stopped a couple of times and people asked. So no one wants to see, obviously, their utility rates go up. But I think based on our explanation, I would venture to say most people seem to be satisfied with the answer.
And that's what I'm alluding to. Hopefully that when we play it out, the staff play it out through door hangers. I think we used the webpage, we used the webpage as well, too. We did let them know that increase was coming down the pipe. And with all those methods, hopefully the residents and businesses understand the necessity, like these pumps for lift station went down. So we can't foresee costs, but when they do come, we have to have a method of paying for it. So thank you for clearing that up.
Okay.
Explaining that. So staff, I appreciate getting it out to the residents. So thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Green?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilman Smith, for asking that question. Meaning no disrespect, and I've said this over since I've been on the council, and I haven't been here exactly a year, but I still say information is everything. And Mr. Mayor, Mr. Metcalf, I'm sorry. I don't know why we keep referring back to our webpage. And we are doing a good job in getting the information out to the citizens, but I find it kind of, I'm uncomfortable when you keep referring to our webpage. And that webpage right now is still under construction. And I could be wrong, but I don't think that we are getting information out to our constituents or residents via that webpage. Because I'm glad to see tonight that we do have some bids to establish the webpage. That webpage has not been working for 10 years.
Well, so the current webpage that we do have, the tompfl.com, that is up and working.
You say the current web page.
Because we're going to
May I
do
ask a
this
question?
I'm sorry.
May I ask
Point of
you,
order.
honestly, Mr. Metcalf, does the town have a working web page that would sufficiently inform this town about information that we should have, and we do not have one?
We do have a webpage that informs. We're striving to have a better one.
But since you keep saying that, anytime you go on the web page, what you will see is under construction.
They would need to make sure they're going under the tompfl.com.
That's the point I'm making, sir. When you go to that web page, and I hate to say it, and I'll be in the conversation, I've been on this council since March. My picture is not even on that web page. It's still under construction.
Ken?
Just to say that I apologize about your picture. We can fix that.
That's not the point, sir. On the web page, it says under construction. So I'm not going to debate it. I'm just making a point.
We do have a website, tompfl.com. It is active. Like I say, we hopefully have a better one in the near future, but that's what we do have at the moment.
Right. Okay. And just a quick information, and this is the one, Councilwoman Green, where we were kind of talking once this is the one, remember we had conversation earlier, that we had made mention that, yes, we want to do a better one. The one that our current IT person has put up about 2 years ago, I think.
That's correct.
About a little over 2 years ago, right? And so yes, so now we'll be discussing later in the meeting how to go about getting a better one, but we have one operable for about the past 2 years from our IT person. Yeah. Now, also as information, there's other things out there. Don't know how that happened, under construction, and then other things that happened. So it's kind of difficult to clean those things out from the web, get all of those things that are not operable from out there, but the operating one is out there. Okay, so we'll look into that as well, how to clean up anything that might be out there. So.
And Mr. Mayor, just to add to that, and I apologize, Ms. Green, you're correct. Our old website, the one that we had for many years, when you try to log into that will give you the message under construction. I didn't clarify that. My apologies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because quite often when the web hoster is no longer hosting the site, and Mark Trueblood had actually done that one, and of course we know he expired, and so we moved to another site. Okay. All right. Other council comments or questions? Okay. Other council comments or questions? If not, we'll go to the floor to see if there's any comments from the floor, and we'll also go online as soon as we entertain the floor. We'll see if there's any comments or questions we have from those who might be attending via our webpage. So at this time, we are at the floor. If there's any comments or questions as it relates to the proposed water increases from the floor, we'll take those now. Okay, seeing that there's no comments from the floor, we'll now see if we have any who might be attending via our webpage on Zoom.
Nothing currently. We have a little bit of delay on the YouTube stuff.
Oh.
Going one more time for any comments from our YouTube audience.
It might be busy with Cyber Monday, shopping, or everything doing that, and just can't get to us, shopping this coming months.
Okay. Alrighty, and for those who don't know, we wait 40 seconds for that delay to take place, and then after that, we proceed, and we have allowed that time to expire, that 40 seconds. Seeing that there is no questions from our attendees who might be via our Facebook page or on Zoom, we'll now close the floor to public comment and see if there's any additional questions or comments we may have from the dais, and then we'll go to our legal. Any questions or comments from council?
I would like to direct my comment to the attorney, the legal definitions, and the manager has kind of talked about the rate increase and the way we've notified the residents and businesses. Can
Absolutely, sir, yeah.
kind of
Yes, sir. The statute, it's 180.136. It requires that you give notice outside of your notice for your regular public meeting, which is what Manager Metcalf indicated. You put it on your water bill, your bills that went out in November. That's the requisite notice under the statute, so you've met that. You've done additional noticing. As he said, you put door hangers throughout town. You discussed it at 2 public meetings, so you have met the statutory requirements for giving notice to the residents.
Okay, thank you for cleaning that up. I have another question that's popped in my head, so I'm going to direct that again to Ken. We have been workshopping this and having meetings about potential rate increase to absorb costs. Help me out. Are we doing this comparison of this city, the size of the city, or town, excuse me, since it's a town? Are we doing a comparison of other towns, the size of this town, and this where we're getting our iPhone or our mail from?
We do, and I do not have that information, but we do. We start out there and we work our way back, but then it does come down to our expenditures. But we do the comparisons, yes.
I mean, it's got to be some type of, I'm assuming, I'm no expert, but it's the curiosity thing. It's got to be a calculation there, and that's why I was asking, but we don't have it. I would like to get it later. I should have asked you earlier, so that's on me, or I should have researched it earlier, so.
We can pull that out and show you.
Can you give it to, I mean, I would think the whole council should have access to that. Can you get that, to us, please?
Certainly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Okay. Alrighty. Other questions or comments by council?
Just one, how long has that information been out there? I mean, when did we actually start? I know we talked about it in the budget, during the budget, but how long has the information actually went to the residents?
The November water bills, and when I say November, the ones they received early November, and the door hangers, I believe, were also in November. But you're right, we did speak about it in several workshops, and I believe most of those workshops were on YouTube. So when you say, how long has the information been out there? Technically, starting back in the summer with the door hangers and the water bill information throughout the month of November.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
Well, yeah, my question then, I know when the clerk or the head clerk, if we make it an national agenda item, what's the timeline? Because I know we were workshopping it, but it's now agenda item, excuse me, so. Well, how long was that process to actually bring it and get it to this point? How long did that take?
We were talking about this in the summer, and we actually went up to the final public hearing for the budget We realized that we had not put it on the water bill, so we removed it from the agenda process at that time.
All right.
And so we've been talking about it publicly pretty much since then, that December 1st would be a public hearing and that we put it up for a vote. So to answer your question on the agenda process, it has been, in the process since September.
Okay. Ready? Anything else, Councilman Smith? Or? Okay. Ready? Other questions or comments? I want to make sure that we have full discussion on it.
Just wanted to make sure we're referring to the agenda item. Right now it's just a presentation. It's not the actual ordinance that we're reviewing, correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. The presentation is now the resolution. Item 6A is the actual resolution adopting the increase.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Ken, you had something else or? Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay. Councilwoman Green?
I really don't want to prolong this, turn it into a debate. I would like to know if, that Katrina? Yeah, it's not here. Let me tell you what happened to me today, and I'm hoping that other residents, this doesn't happen to them, because this is something that's very serious when it comes to water and water shut-offs, and because even the Palm Beach Post has been doing articles on how much it costs other municipalities that charge their residents cut-offs and cut-off when the water is cut off. I'm glad it happened to me today. And doesn't mean that I'm one of those people it won't happen to. That's why I'm saying it happened to me. I had a red notice hung on my door today. And when I got it, it said my water would be cut off Wednesday. And I'm on, got the name of it, automatic bill pay. And she, I like to say Councilman Albury, she likes me because she doesn't have to worry about me paying my water bill. I have a tiny water bill. That's why I can talk about it, because I have a well. And the bank made mistakes. And when it was explained to me why they were threatening to cut my water bill off, my water off, was not my fault. And I'm just wondering, will it happen to anybody else, any of our other residents? I hope not. I just asked.
I know that was
Okay.
directed to the deputy clerk, but if I could answer that. So, Councilmember Green, what we do is your water bill goes out. First, you usually will have it the first couple of days of the month. It's due on the 15th. And then on the 21st, the day before the late fee goes into effect, we mail out letters letting people know that as of tomorrow, you're getting a late fee, and if your bill has not been paid within 7 days, you are subject to disconnect. Now, having said that, we haven't disconnected anyone since February. Now, we did start back in September putting the late fees on there. Council did authorize staff to disconnect. We haven't disconnected anyone. Now, what is happening now is we're not disconnecting. People are, in some cases, not paying. Their balance is really starting to get up there. The red tag that you saw today, that is just to really try to get attention that call us, make arrangements, let us know, what you're up against. Still subject to disconnect, but we felt like that was the only way to really get that conversation generated. So in your particular case, that was caught, and so you had the opportunity to call and say, hey, something's not right here. And I think most people, when they get those red tags, they're calling us.
Well, that was why I brought it up, because I've been in my house for 30 years, and Representative, we didn't deliberately bring this topic up. Honestly, it was already on the agenda. Because he's sitting here, I think he knows the joke. But it just bothered me that it happened today. And when I talked to the staff, she said it was the bank's fault. And it wasn't. But it's just such an inopportune time for this to happen, especially now with the virus and everything that's going on. And then I'm glad Councilman Smith brought this up, and we just presented them with how much it is to cut it back on, and they get that little red thing on their door, and I mean, it's just, all I could do is think about some people who are behind on their water. So the reason I brought it up is is anybody saying, what can be done? Because if it's the bank's fault, if it happened to me, it could happen again. So Mayor, what could be done? Yes.
I'd have to reiterate that, like in your case, you noticed it, you called and said, what's going on here? And I think most people, when they're getting that red tag, they're calling us. Again, no disconnects have happened since February. People are calling in, we're working with them.
No, it's not the disconnect that bothers me. That's not that bothers me.
It was the bank's fault.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Okay. Councilman McConnell, then Councilman Smith.
But that, in other words, we have been working with the people. We don't just shut their water off with this virus going on and all that. Everything that's going on, people can't pay their rent, so they might not be able to pay their water bill or any other bills as far as that goes. So I think, we as a town, we should be giving them, not just going and turning their water off without any kind, just shutting it off. That's not human.
Okay. Councilman Smith?
My question then to Councilman Green, my question to you then, being that you're paying this on auto pay through the bank, am I hearing it correct? And when you receive the red tag on your door, you're very concerned. Is there a way that you can contact the bank when that occur again, like a customer service number, and get some immediate actions or answers?
You know what I did, Mr. Smith? I'm glad you said that. I'm getting off automatic bill pay.
Okay.
That's the only way I can solve it, because Katrina, she can explain to you, because sometimes my water bill, it changes. It goes one time, it just goes another one. And so the bank takes out so much, and after a while, I owe the town. And they get frustrated with me calling them, saying, so that's the only way I solve my own. I'm just getting off automatic bill pay.
Okay. Okay, we appreciate you sharing it with us, and because it may be affecting others, and okay, but we'll get back to second. Okay. Again.
I wanted to add in regard to the utility rate increase, and I think everyone will remember, we have one-on-ones just about with every agenda, and at least on 2 occasions, each one of you, we had one-on-ones and where the utility rates were laid out in pretty good detail as to why and what it was going to be. So I failed to bring that up as well.
Okay. Righty. Any new information or questions? Vice Mayor, you have
I
something?
just wanted to ask for, various times residents have questions. They may not have the documents that we have, but isn't it appropriate to share with them the details that we've been going over, and we can let them see this is our document we received as a council person? And as a council person, I want you to read through the document, and these points are already clarified.
Webpage
Can
again.
you just read through this, and if there's questions, then I'll help you find the answer in the document that has already been prepared. Is that all right to do that?
Well, certainly. However, keep in mind too, and here's the pragmatic response, is that one of the things, of course, and I keep talking about this representative government, that we're elected to represent our residents, and so we have a responsibility to share information as well. However, within the construct of the democracy we operate, everything that's done here, you don't mail out to a resident. They become overwhelmed. So what you do is you make it available through other sources, and so forgive me for bringing the website up again. So the question would be that, or the statement would be, or the response would be, we would open the website. That way, everyone has access to it.
Go back to the website.
So the question would be that, in as much as the opinions about the website that is operable, have we posted this out yet, or you are waiting for it to be approved or denied first?
Waiting to be approved.
Okay. Alrighty. And so we do have documents out there. There's a tab, documents, and it has all of the approved documents and ordinances and so forth that are approved. So once the final disposition of this happens, then it'll be placed out on the website and made available as well. But to your point, in terms of just making it available prior to the disposition, that being the approval or denial, during the budget workshops, and I'll go to Amelia at this point, when we post out that there's a workshop tonight, that workshop, particularly, and we workshop this, I'm not sure, right. So when we workshop something like this, although the side doesn't say that we're going to be having a rate study for our water to take place at this particular workshop, if you advertise that a workshop is happening, this happens to be the item that you're discussing, would that be public notice as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. So we go through the whole process of public notice. But again, there's no offense on my part if residents don't come because they rely on the people that they elected to represent them. And so so caught up in times in this process, you won't see people here because we're here.
And I just will add to that, the statute that I referred to earlier, 180.136, it requires additional notice above and beyond your normal workshopping. So that would have certainly been sufficient notice for the workshop, but the statute does require the additional notice on the bill, which the town has provided to ensure that residents receive adequate notice before action happens at the council meeting.
Yeah, so a lot of notice has taken place, and yes. Okay, Councilwoman Green, and then we'll wrap up.
Vice Mayor Johnson, I know you're going to love this, and I know I always have to go back. Sometimes people make profound statements and you never forget them. And one of the ones that you've made that I never forget is when you said, we need to read. And it reminds me of this. I'm not making any excuses, but let's be realistic. When we do a workshop, we know residents are not attentive to what we are doing in a workshop. And especially if something as significant and as important as water. So that's a good question, Vice Mayor Johnson, and that's why it is, so I'm going back to the webpage again, it is so important that we find a way to make something that's simple that they can pick up and look and read and learn from. And I'll be honest with you, I have never found anything that worked as effective as the email. Because they look at something simple, they don't want to read a whole lot of stuff, they want to see it, look at it one time, read it, understand it, and that's it. So it's going to be interesting, so how we are going to get the information to them once we do put it on the webpage, when we ever do, and how we're going to teach them to use it. But I've learned and as a teacher for so many years, now technology, you're going to have to make quick and simple. And I think that's the fault of us, especially in a small town like we have, and something this small, we're just going to have to find a way to get them that information. Vice Mayor Johnson, other than trying to rely on them reading it, I know what you're saying, but that's just the fact. We just don't read like we should.
Well, thank you for recognizing my concern, Councilwoman.
I've always recognized your concern.
My main point in this is that we as council have the documentation. We have the figures, and we have been workshopping and discussing and putting into our budget. We've been doing this for so long,
Right.
6 months.
Right,
We have had this information.
right.
So when a resident asks a question, we ourselves can look and see what the late payment penalty is listed in our document and give accurate information to the resident as what is listed in the documentation.
Okay.
If you see on page 6 of this same documentation, it indicates number 6, late fee penalty. So if somebody says, oh, I hear penalty is gonna be $75, well, you can say, well, let me look at the documentation. And we can look at that, and that's what I do, look at the documentation and see, oh, that information is incorrect because what has been workshopped and what has put in our budget is based on the information listed in this documentation, $30 or 1% of previous balance. That would be, whichever's greater, that would be the late fee penalty. So it's just our job as council to be aware of what's in our documentation and to either give out accurate information to those that are questioning because they're trying to get a little more knowledge of the process.
Okay. To that, in terms of just the process, and then we'll come to you real quick, Councilwoman Green, to the process. We're going to return back to the process. Because the process is to make a decision on this. We'll take Councilwoman Green real quick, and then we'll come back to the process of deciding whether or not we will approve or approve. Councilwoman Green? Okay. Okay. Alrighty, so with that then, just in terms of the actual task at hand, that would be as it relates to the proposed water and wastewater utility fee charges. We've workshopped, we've had some questions and comments. If there's any other questions as it relates to the proposed rates itself, then we want to make sure we've had all of those questions answered before a decision. So if there's any other questions or comments as it relates to the rate increase itself. Okay, hearing none, then we'll close the floor to conversation and debate. So at this point in time, we do have this as a presentation, and then we'll move on our agenda, and this will come back to us in just a moment. Okay, our next item is our Palm Beach County League of Cities meeting.
Thank you. I'll be very brief, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, there is no December meeting at the League. Typically, that's the Tri-City Barbecue. That, because of coronavirus, is not occurring. So I will bring you dates for January, but they're well in the distance. So I'll report back to you at your next meetings.
Okay.
Thanks
so much. I appreciate it. Any questions for our meeting? Okay. And thanks so much. We'll continue on our agenda. Our next item is item 6A. This is ordinance 2020-05. Of course, this is second reading, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 8, Code Enforcement. Mitty?
Thank you, sir. As you said, this is ordinance number 2020-05. It's an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Mangonia Park, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Mangonia Park at Chapter 8, Code Enforcement, by amending this chapter to update language regarding the Code Enforcement Special Magistrate in conformance, with state statutes, to clarify the jurisdiction of the Special Magistrate, and to provide for internal consistency with the Town Code, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 8 Code Enforcement shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. As you said, this is second reading. I'm happy to answer any questions, but as was reported at first reading, this just updates your code enforcement chapter to make it conform with current state law and some recent changes, and just better describe your special magistrate process, which is what the town is currently utilizing. So with that, I'll answer any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Okay, any questions or comments council may have? Any council comments or questions? Okay, Councilman Smith?
My question is, I'm noticing it's cleaner in the language. So, as to previous ordinance that we've had on the books in the past. With that being said, as a township, will we be able to enforce? How we go about enforcing?
Yes, sir, and if I...
Definitely cleaner.
Sure, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir. This does just eliminate some antiquated language, specifically referenced to special master is what the previous terminology was. As you say, there is some strike through to just clean up the ordinance and bring it current. In terms of enforcement, the enforcement actually happens through the other code provisions that you have. This is just spelling out how the town enacts or implements code enforcement in accordance with Chapter 162 under the law. So this is just setting up the framework for your code enforcement to operate, and again, making more clear and bringing current the language about the special magistrate, which is who the town currently uses. That's the process you use. We did retain the code enforcement board language. That is still allowed by law, so we left that in there because there's no sense in getting rid of something that can still be utilized under the law, but it's not the current practice of the town.
Okay. All right. Other questions or comments? Okay. All righty. And Amity, just for the record and for those who, again, I'm ringing in my ears what Vice Mayor stated, that we have documents. So just a question for the record, or have there been any material changes to this?
No, sir. It really just brings the language current with current law. The only two substantive changes were changes to the noticing provision in 162.09, but they're minimal changes, just allowing for different mechanisms of notice, but that's the only real substantive change.
Okay. Well, thanks so much. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Seeing that there are not. Okay, you have before you ordinance number 2020-05. You've heard it read by title as well as a brief description. What is your pleasure as it relates to the proposed ordinance?
And I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, if we could solicit public comment before motions. I'm sorry.
Certainly.
for the
It is so
interruption.
difficult when you look out and it's all on Zoom now and Facebook. My apologies. At this point in time, we'll open the floor for public comment. If there's any public comment as it relates to this proposed ordinance.
And again, because of the delay, we'll give a minute. If that's okay. No comments, sir.
Thank you so much. Seeing that there are no comments by those who may be joining us by way of electronic media, and no comments from the floor. That being said, we'll now close the floor to public comments, and we'll return to the dais. Again, you have before you ordinance number 2020-05. It has been read by title, and a description of the strike-throughs given. What is your pleasure as it relates to the proposed ordinance? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve 2020-05, second reading.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing that there are no questions on the motion, roll call, please. Yes.
Yes. Councilmember Green?
Yes.
Councilmember McCormick?
Yes.
And Councilmember Sims?
Yes.
Thank you so much. It passes unanimously. Our next item is item 6B. It is on your agenda has A, 6B. This is Resolution 2020-12, adopting a revised schedule of fees and charges for the provision of water and wastewater services. Amity?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, as you said, this is Resolution 2020-12, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Mangonia Park, Florida, adopting a revised schedule of fees and charges for the provision of water and wastewater services and for plant capacity rendered by the Town of Mangonia Park for its citizens and other members of the public, providing that this revised schedule of fees and charges shall be available for inspection at all times at the Town Hall during regular business hours, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you so much. Would you like to give just a brief description of the proposal resolution, Amity, for the public?
Sure. This, as Manager Metcalf indicated, the major changes are the adjustments to the water and sewer portions. There also was an addition near the end. There are some charges that in the previous ordinance, previous resolution that was adopted, those additional fees which are stated in your developer's agreement were inadvertently omitted, so that's just a Scrivener's error correction to reinsert those. Those items are in the pages 9 and 10, but they're consistent with what was previously adopted. For whatever reason, again, the scrivener's error occurred. But the primary change is just to the water and sewer rates.
Well, thank you so much. Any questions or comments from council? Any council comments or questions? Seeing that there are no comments at this time, we'll go to the floor to see if there's any comments from the floor. The floor is open for public comment as it relates to resolution number 2020-12. And we'll give the 40-second delay for those who are online. Okay. Any comments from our online viewers? Okay. And just for those who are viewing, we did get a comment from another one of the residents who is attending via electronic media. We're just trying to get that information, and then we'll share that in just a moment. Thank you.
No comments.
No comment? Okay. Thank you so much. So at this point in time, we'll close the floor to public comment and return to the dais. Any other questions or comments by council? Seeing that there are none. Before us is Resolution 202-12, and of course, it has been read by title and a brief description given thereof. What is your pleasure as it relates to the proposed resolution? Is there a motion, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do move that we approve the adoption of the revised schedule of fees, resolution 2020-12.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Has been properly moved and seconded. Any other questions or additional questions on the motion? Seeing that there are none, a roll call, please.
Mayor Alberry?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson? Yes. Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Councilmember McDonald?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Thank you so much. We'll continue on our agenda. Our next item is item 7A, and this is a request for consideration to award a contract bid for 18 residential sewer connections in the Bryn Mawr subdivision to one of the three bidders. Ken?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, this is the second part, if you will, to the, you all know that we've done the sewer line on Jeffrey and Sherwood. This is the part where we connect from the house to the line. And the way this works is we put out for informal bids. We put out to, I believe it was 53 plumbing contractors throughout the county and the region. We had, I guess, initially 7 or 8 people that expressed interest, and we had 3 people to actually submit quotes. So the way this will work is once council has selected the contractor, they will get busy doing the necessary paperwork with the health department and do the work. This, in 2014, you allowed for a 5-year repayment from the citizens to the town. 5 years, and that was put on their property taxes. So anticipating that may be the case, and you're not voting on that tonight, but we are selecting the contractor tonight. So, of the three, and I'll just go down the list, Atcon Services LLC, they submitted a quote for $65,650. Dr. Reuter Plumbing, they submitted a quote for $83,880. And Speedy Reuter Incorporated submitted a quote for $59,999.99. Now, the lowest bid on this is Speedy Reuter. They're not in Palm Beach County, they are in the Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale area. When you go to the quotes, and I'm going to put Roosevelt on the spot briefly, if you will. In going through the proposals, Roosevelt did find one little interesting thing that I think is valuable to the conversation. And if you don't mind putting me on the spot, go ahead.
Yeah, the bids with, came in Dr. Reuter and Speedy Reuter and Anacon. Anacon is the only one that's actually, ruptured and backfilled the septic tanks. Everyone just saying they're gonna suck out the septic tanks to 1,000 gallons and eventually leave them. But Anacon is the only one that's gonna rupture it and backfill. So they're gonna fill it in instead of just leaving it with the board. Other than that, everything is still working the same. They don't want to put it in actually back from the septic.
Yep.
Come out up to 1,000 gallons.
Okay.
Coming out 1,000 and back.
Oh, good. Okay. All righty. So in terms of just and we'll get right to council questions, and this may be the evidence to it. In terms of just a side-by-side for these three, the only difference would be that they're going to be backfilling it, the one vendor. Okay. Council comments or questions?
Yes.
No, Councilman Smith?
So being that Speedy Reuter and Sir and Dr. Reuter, once we're gonna backfill it and pump it, what the cost then to do that?
But the residue itself,
Yes.
like bringing them back on a dump truck.
So, you know, okay, so that sounds, pricey.
Yeah.
Don't figure out there.
Yeah. I don't know how much you're gonna pay for the field, how much you're gonna pay for the dump truck, since we're gonna get it from.
Anacon is gonna backfill and pump it.
Yeah, they're doing both. And then you're gonna have like dump a power dirty yard and grab the children and start back from the septic.
And add certainly that's going to be a requirement of the
Yeah.
department.
Yeah. Got abandoned.
They're not gonna want you to just check it out and leave, because it's gonna happen over time, it's gonna get big and get you yard.
And then it'll crush the whole, deactivate those septic
Yeah.
systems.
Before you back, they generally want you back.
Right, okay, so. All right, you still give me a figure, but I know that price.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. That's gotta be about 40 per acre, I don't know. I should vote for, but it's gotta be pricey. They're gonna cover it. That's the cost.
Actually, rupture, going to rupture, and then back to the.
Okay. Ken?
Speedy, Reuter, and Dr. Reuter.
No, they just all,
Speedy,
they're
what you gonna do?
all saying they're gonna pump up to 1,000 gallons. They're the only ones saying they're gonna rupture and back.
Okay. Ready?
And the last question is in writing, and a common
Yes,
service.
if you look who the scope work is in there.
I am, so let me get the read. All right, go ahead.
Okay. Before additional council comments, can you have something to that point? Okay.
Briefly, in that if you were to choose or select someone that did not have that in their proposal, we would have to go back to them and say, it's council's desire to have this in there, and we'd have to negotiate the cost, and that would probably have to come back to you for another selection. So just some food for thought on that.
Thank you so much. Vice Mayor?
Just wanted to ask a question about familiarity of work and a kind of services. Is that a service that you are familiar with?
Honestly, out of the 3 companies, the only one I actually worked with Speedy before and Dr. Reuter. I never worked with Anacon.
Roosevelt, could you talk in your mic a little bit back in here?
I work with Steve Ruder and Doc Ruder, I have never worked with Amazon. And I'm just, I'm Hollywood. Yeah, I'm actually.
Mr. Mayor?
We need to get some kind of a reference on their,
I think they put their references in the bid.
okay.
So it actually want to show you where their last job was in their bid.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay. Okay, Vice Mayor McConnell, then we'll come to you.
If,
Let's make sure, Vice Mayor? Okay.
if they're not gonna pump the tank and disable the septic tank, then they're not completing the job.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like.
So that-
Yeah, because it was in my yard, I wanted broken in back.
Right, and the residents are gonna want a complete job, not, well, now we gotta call somebody to come pump the tank and,
Yeah,
you know.
Some things probably old, and they're not covered, I've seen some that are not totally covered. And so over time, you're gonna get a big sinkhole, it's gonna go around your yard, you're gonna know exactly what septic tank is.
Yeah, if they disable it, break it up or whatever, and fill in the hole. Right, I mean, you're right, over time, they're gonna have to put something else in there later on, once it,
Once you pump it out, there's nothing in there, so it's gonna be a hole. So over time, if the cave anything, it's gonna suck. Then whatever you have on top of it's gonna suck. And by them rupturing and backfilling out there.
Okay, anything else, McConnell?
so if they, or, then the council, we need to go back to them and see if they're gonna do that, because if they're not gonna complete the job, then it's a moot, as far as I'm concerned. We only got one contractor here that's gonna do it.
Okay. Okay, all righty, Councilwoman Green?
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
What did you say we had? Can you tell them what you said? We've been doing that, doesn't sound like it's right. Tell them what you just said.
No, I just said if they're not gonna complete the job, these other two contractors, it's moot. I mean, we're gonna have to go back to them and see who's gonna, I mean, the residents not gonna wanna have to call a dump truck and a backhoe to come in there and do the tank, correct? I mean, I wouldn't think so.
Well, let me ask a question, I may be lost. There are three contractors, right? Is this why you wanted me to have it? I haven't had agenda review, so this is my first time seeing it. This is my first time. Am I the only one, Dalton? This is my first time seeing this. Why is everybody looking at me like that?
Well, if they're
This is the first
if they're
reading.
gonna do the job
No.
and they don't pump the tank, then,
I'm trying to understand something. Let me ask you a question. This is our first reading on this, right?
This is the first time it's been on the agenda, and I'll defer to the
First time
manager.
it's on the agenda. We have 3 people bidding for a job.
Correct.
So what he said we can't do. Is that legal?
Well, I think his point is that you have 3 quotes, but they're for different scopes of services. You have 2 that are proposing to do the same scope of service, and 1 who's proposing something that includes an additional amount of work. I think it was his point.
Okay, anything else, Councilwoman Green?
This is our first reading anyway.
No, actually,
We
this
are
is,
not making a decision tonight, right?
yes.
Oh, okay.
yes, so if you had anything else, any other questions?
No.
Okay, all righty, other council comments or questions?
I was just gonna say, originally, we found that additional information that you gave about the eruption and backflow. I was gonna say that because this is a cost that is gonna go back to the hands of the residents who will go with the lowest bid. However, if this job that the lowest bid provides is not the complete necessary work, then I agree with McCollum. Their contract is not completing what we're asking for.
And if you actually look at, I think something like $6,000 for the entire project, more than the lower bid. It's not It's like,
Right.
one's 59, the other's 65.
Yeah, so I would be in favor of the one that's providing the complete scope of service that's necessary and the price that's reasonable for doing that. So that's the only one that qualifies is Dr. Fountain.
Okay. Ready? Other council comments or questions? Okay. So just two questions to you, so that there's no consideration that first and foremost that we kind of call others and so to speak. Now, was backfilling one of the tenets of the request?
Yes, sir.
Oh, so,
It was clear.
so we made that clear that that was also part of the proposal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so we have basically then just one responder. They responded to the total tenets of the proposal, and that would be the one proposal. Okay, all righty, and then just for the record, as it relates to the finances, there's a $6,000 difference between Sir Speedy and Anacon. Just in your professional, this is not to hold you too fast to it, but just in your professional opinion, to backfill 12 sewer tanks would be more than 6,000, about 6,000? 18? Okay. All righty. Okay. All righty. Okay. Yeah, so we'd be more, absolutely. So just sort of looking at the comparison, so it's not even a wash, it's substantially more too, if you would consider the lower bid. Okay, Councilman Smith?
Just ask the question I was trying to get an answer earlier.
Okay.
No one would.
Okay.
I should say no one, I couldn't get that answer. My backhoe to come in, but that's a cost.
Mhm. Right.
I know the price, I didn't know what the figures would be. I couldn't crunch those numbers, but now I'm hearing numbers.
Correct.
That's all I'm asking.
Right. And so what we want to do is put on the record as it relates to what our requirement is as it relates to accepting bids. The most responsive bidder was Anacon. The lesser bid, of course, was Sir Speedy, but when you consider that they don't have the backfill requirement that was put out there, and if indeed we were to say, well, let's just consider the lower bid, it wouldn't not be the lower bid because about $18,000 roughly, so you take $6,000 away from that, and then they're actually $12,000 above the second lowest bid. So just want to kind of put that out there on the record as well, just in case there's some questions concerning it. Okay, alrighty, any other questions or comments? Any other council comments or questions? Okay, we're going to go to our attorney in just a moment, but let's go to the floor and see if there's any comments from those online and as well as those in attendance. Any questions as it relates to the proposals before us? That being for the purposes of connecting to the new sewer lines that were put into the Bryn Mawr section. We have one bid from one vendor. It's public information now, so Speedy Rooter Incorporated for $59,999 and $60,000. We have another proposal from Anacon Services, and that amount was for $65,650. And then we had one from Dr. Rooter for $83,880. So any questions or comments as it relates to those attending by way of Zoom or Facebook, or those attending here in person? So we're now, any comments from the floor?
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, while we're giving everyone a minute, just to tell everyone how we did this. We did put out an ad, and we got a very good response to the ad. Like I said, about 53 contractors received the ad by way of email. We also sent an ad to Ms. Tanya Davis Johnson at the county Equal Opportunity Office, and they responded well to us doing that. They sent that out to all their plumbing contractors. So we got it out there. Once we established a pre-bid meeting here in this room, and we did have about 7 or 8 contractors show up for the pre-bid meeting. And after the pre-bid meeting, we took them, the water and sewer engineer, Mr. Stanbaugh, myself, and the town clerk, and went to the neighborhood and walked, starting at the far end of Sherwood, back down to Jeffrey, and showed everyone the properties that were involved. So they had good opportunity to see and to talk through everything with us as they were considering it.
Okay, thanks so much, and so noted. Ready? Any questions or comments from the floor? And we'll come back to the desk in just a moment. We'll give the time delay to see if there's any questions from those on Facebook or Zoom.
Mr. Mayor, could you speak up a little bit?
Yes, at this point, we're just comments from the floor, either those attending in person, and we're also giving the 40-second delay to those who are attending via Facebook page and/or Zoom to see if there's any questions from our residents. Okay, thank you so much. We'll close the floor to public comment. We'll come back to the dais now. Councilwoman Green, you had a question or a comment, or?
No, I just can't hear you.
Okay, okay. All righty.
The only question I got is is there 10 residents?
12, I think?
18.
18. I see 12.
Because this one, Icon Services only has 10 residents.
17 is what they got.
Let's see if they got this.
17 is listed on the front of page 1.
Oh, I'm sorry, there's another one over here. Okay. I was looking in the wrong one, sorry.
That's okay. No, but however, good observation. You stated that there's 18 addresses because they have 17 on their proposal. Okay, so now the correct number is 18 residences?
Pretty positive, 18 is it, I'm not sure where the disconnect is on that.
Okay. And it was made clear to them in the language of the proposal that it stayed 18 residences? Okay, so that was out there. So the legal document stated 18. They responded to that document. And, okay, so it may just be an omission on their part.
So they missed one?
Yes, however, and I'll go to committee, I'll just state it, because we did have the proposal out there and it clearly stated 18 residences. They omitted a residence, however, they responded to our legal document. If they were chosen, Anacon that is, that we would just simply make it clear to them that no, what you bidded on was 18 residences. Or what would you recommend here?
Yeah, and my apologies, I didn't get those quotes as part of my backup, so I have not reviewed those.
Okay.
Were the specific addresses listed, and there's only 17, is that the issue?
Yes, the one responder has 17 residences. The proposal actually stated there's 18 residences, so there's one missing from the proposal.
Correct. So if the bid document said there were 18 residences, my presumption is that that's a
They
scrivener's
just
error, but I
omitted
can't speak to that. I can't speak for the contractor.
Okay.
I will say that your normal contract would be what is provided to the contractor to sign at that price that you're approving tonight. So if that's an error, I wouldn't imagine that they would be amenable to signing that contract. So if there's some error in their bid, then it would have to come back to you at some point to correct the issue.
Okay. But generally speaking, if the bid document stated 18 and they responded to that document, just generally speaking, then, and if they were selected, then the obligation would be to honor that 18? Generally speaking?
Generally speaking, yes, but yes, generally speaking.
Okay. All righty. Okay. Oh, thanks. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All righty. Hearing none. Any other information or from the staff? Okay, so what we'll do at this point in time, and we do rely on the expertise of our utility director. You had the opportunity of going through all three, and you were part of the process as well. Okay, so just based upon your expert opinion, your recommendation would be?
I'll go with Anacon.
Anacon? Okay, so we have a recommendation.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry?
May I ask a question?
Certainly.
That's what I was saying. Are we getting ready to make a decision on which one of these we want to select?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's what I was saying. This is my first time seeing these. I don't know what we're doing.
Okay. Ken, you want to?
Just that we put out the agendas, the first draft of the agendas on Wednesday evening. We sent out a more, I guess, finalized version yesterday. I did offer agenda review to everyone. Now, keep in mind, I was out last week, but as of yesterday, I did offer agenda review, and tried to go through these. So that's the only information I have. All right? I can appreciate Ms. Green's point.
Okay. Councilwoman Green?
I would have a problem with us making a decision on this tonight. I told you, I'm gonna bring it up. I really have a problem with this. I didn't even know we were gonna have a council meeting. The sign wasn't put out until was it today or Monday? Number one. Number two, I told the town manager, we having a council meeting, I haven't seen an agenda. I get here tonight, and we have 3 bids for a job that I didn't even know was going to be on the agenda, and you're going through it, and we're going to approve it, and I barely can hear what the mayor is saying. So, and yes, you did offer me agenda review, and like I said to you, anytime, you know, I have never missed agenda review. I had it with you, but because of what happened, I assumed we weren't even having a meeting. So I had scheduled another appointment for our agenda review, and I told you I could not attend agenda review. And then so, no, I just can't see us beat it before, for this coming before us tonight, and then we make a decision on something that we had just seen. And that's why I made the comment about the comment which you, maybe I'm misunderstanding what he's saying, but Councilman McConnell just said would not be fair to the other people who are bidding on it, because that's like, okay, there's 3 people bidding for something, and we said that this person is not going to do this, so he's automatically set up here and said this person is automatically disqualified because he's not doing something. So maybe I just misunderstood what you were saying. That's why I asked that question. So I think the whole process is just over my head. Maybe I'm missing something.
To that point, let's just kind of make sure that we're getting information. When was the agendas? I know we normally get them prior to the hard copy. We get them via email. Was this part of the attachment? This attachment was part of the email that was sent?
On the initial email, no. We sent out a draft agenda Wednesday evening, and then yesterday we sent out a more finalized version. The backup wasn't part of that.
Okay.
For the bids. We did list out who was bidding, but we did not send out all the bid documents.
Okay. All righty. So the way, Councilwoman Green?
No respect to the town manager. Even after we discussed this today, I said, okay, send it to me again. It didn't come, and you said it had been sent to the wrong number.
I'm not quite sure what's happening between the town email and yours, but we'll definitely have to look into it and get it fixed. I know today I sent it to you twice.
I know, and I was sitting in front of my computer, and I told her, I said, look, this family didn't get that. But you said that you sent it to the wrong number one time.
No, ma'am.
You want to see my email? My text message? You said I sent it to the wrong phone number.
Okay.
No, ma'am, I didn't say that.
Okay. And we'll address it and see if, what's going on, just to make sure that all council persons are receiving their email. So we'll make sure that we address that. Here's 2 things that can happen. One is that if you've had sufficient information presented to you, sufficient explanation given to you by the town manager and our utilities director, you've gone through the proposals and you want to approve it, you can. If you feel that no, you haven't had enough time to review it and to digest it, then it is an action item. You vote to not approve it at this time or to table it. So you have those options before you. Okay? Alrighty. So, but however, as it relates to just the proposals itself, is there any other questions or any new information as it relates to the proposals? Okay. Hearing none. And keep in mind your options, and those options take place at the vote. So with that, if there's no other questions, we have had opportunity to open the floor to comment. We've had full discussion at this point from the dais. That being stated, what is your pleasure as it relates to the item relating to the proposals, that being the request to award a contract bid for 18 residential sewer connections in the Vermar subdivision to one of the three bidders, and we have discussed the three bids. So what is your pleasure as it relates to the proposals? Motion, please.
Well, Mr. Mayor, in regards to the proposal, the bid that went out, one respondent met the requirements of the request for bid. I think we can move forward with the one that gave the details that's needed to satisfy the request for bids. I'm comfortable with that, so I think we can move forward with voting, otherwise.
With that, Shorty.
Okay. I think so much. Is a motion, please? What is your pleasure as it relates to the proposal? A motion is in order.
Mr. Mayor, a motion that we go forward with contract Anacon Service, being that they met the criteria that they're going to backfill. And Dr. Ruger and Speedy Ruger was given the same option. That's what we asked. They opted to not do it. So I'm asking that we go forward and Anacon Service, being that they're going to backfill and deactivate the septic system. So no residents get or have to do additional costs.
Okay. Thank you so much. A motion has been made it has been properly moved and seconded that the award be granted to Anacon Services LLC for the purposes of the connection for the 18 residences there in the Bryn Mawr section. Is there any questions on the motion?
I got one question on the proposal here. Are we looking at $65,650? That what we're looking at? Okay.
Okay. And I'm sorry, just one clarification on the motion. If the maker of the motion at this point would like to amend it to also include the 18th, the additional residence that is not listed on their proposal, just to kind of clean this document up. Would the maker of the motion be willing to add that?
Yeah, after that, we're going to making the 18th resident. I doubt it out there. So
Okay.
yes, they were like, then it's not in there that we include the 18th resident.
Okay. All right, and the seconder agree? Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, so noted. Okay, so the motion is and has been moved and seconded, and that the contract be awarded to Anacon Services LLC for the purposes of 18 residential connections there in the Bryn Mawr section. Additional questions or comments on the motion?
So it'll be contingent on them doing the 18th house.
18.
Yeah.
Okay, other questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mayor Walden,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Green,
Only reason I'm saying no is because I'm going to say yes, but I want to say no because I haven't read it. But I'm saying yes because I go along with my council people.
Okay.
so you say yes,
If that makes sense.
yes?
I'm sorry, questions from the clerk, from the assistant clerk?
Just clarity.
Well, it's going to pass anyway, but I'm going to have to say no because I haven't read
No?
no.
Okay.
Only because I haven't read it.
Councilmember McConnell
Yes.
and Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Our next item is item 7B, and this is a consideration, I'm sorry, perhaps, okay. This is 7B, and this is a consideration for the approval of an interim interlocal agreement between the town of Magnolia Park and the city of West Palm Beach for fire services. Of course, this is effective October 1st of this year through September 30th of next year. Ken?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, this is something that you already budgeted for. We went through the budget process, and this was something laid out for you. If I could, let me go back to February, where the town was sent a new agreement that read for an increase basically of $60,000 per month. And, you know, once I got up off the floor, I called West Palm Beach. We started having discussions and they admitted, no, we don't want to do that. So what they came back with was an increase of 8% starting this year. And, we felt like in discussions, one-on-ones and workshops with you, that was still a little bit steep. So I went back to the city administrator and said, is there a way to, cut that in half or even a little bit less than half and enter into an interim agreement, and then we start looking at long-term? And she agreed. So what you budgeted was a 3% increase. That's what we have. This interim agreement, while it's, and I think the attorney will opine a little bit on this, while it's set up, it does state up to a year. I think the idea is for the city administrator and myself to get together and start immediately talking about a long-term deal and get that back to our respective councils within 6 months. So that's where we're at. This interim agreement kind of memorializes the 3% increase that's in your budget for this year. Turn it over to the attorney.
Sure, thank you, Ken. Just one additional comment. In Section 2, the term provision of the contract, as Manager Metcalf was alluding to, this is drafted as if it's an interim agreement intended to be short-term. The language is a little inconsistent, so my recommendation would be that the town try to keep that as short as possible. Interim agreements should be of a short duration. Unfortunately, by the time this came for review, the city of West Palm has already officially adopted this. So the opportunity for revision has passed. But I think there is an opportunity to, as Manager Metcalf said, focus on getting a long-term agreement negotiated and in place as quickly as possible to keep this an interim agreement. But otherwise, the provisions are very consistent with your past agreement with the city.
Okay. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. Any other information to be considered before council deliberates from the town manager and or the town attorney? Okay. Righty, so any questions or comments from the council? Any council comments or questions?
Just short-term agreement, what's for 6 months?
A year.
So it says 6 months?
Yes, Section 2 says that it's...
Agreement for less than 6 months?
Right, but then the next sentence says it shall expire upon approval of a long-term agreement by the town and the city or on September
Right.
30th, 2022, which is in essence a little bit more than a year. So it allows for both. Again, my recommendation would be to pursue the long-term agreement as quickly as possible.
So the long-term agreement has got to be made within that 6 months or less?
No, it doesn't have
No?
to be. This is drafted whichever occurs first. So if the town can get into a long-term agreement before the 6 months or even before September 30th, 2022, that would take precedent and this interim agreement would go away.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Any other?
So, if I'm understanding, I want to be crystal clear and piggybacking on what has been said by you, attorney, and what has been said by the manager, and what has been mentioned by Councilman McConnell, which is interim agreement at 3%. And this is going to cover all the fire service, paramedic service given by the city of West Palm. And we're going to be working diligently, hopefully, to get more into a regular contract service and at a favorable percentage, hopefully at a lower than 8%. But if it's at 8%, then we would hope that it would be services rendered to cover everything, resident business in the township. So, I just want to be clear, get clarity of what's been said, so, or what I'm being told, so. If anything need to be added to what has been said, or we need to move forward.
No, I would say that's correct. This is an interim agreement. It gets you an agreement in place for now. And as I said, and as Manager Metcalf said, the goal is to negotiate a long-term agreement, which would give you services for an extended period of time at a negotiated rate and include the services that the town needs.
So Okay, so this was an insurance matter, this is a good, more like a good faith thing, just kind of have some coverage and protection on the city's town.
Yes, this is an interim agreement that allows for an agreement to be in place now while you negotiate the long-term agreement.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Okay. Ready?
We've been talking about, can we motion? Going to a motion, or are we going to offer it to?
It's here on the dais, this item. Just want to make sure that we've had full discussion. If there's any other questions or comments by council or any additional information. So just while you're collecting your thoughts, now, of course, when Ken and I, we had spoke about this, and one of the things, and Ken can chime in, was that when we got this, I was thinking, no, what is their CPI? It's not 30%, 8%, or whatever it is. It's 3%, 2%, or something like that. I think it is. And so my position was then, well, we need to implement the CPI. However, we were not able to do that because the contract actually expired. So therefore, everything starts anew. And so that's where we are now to get the interim going. Okay? Vice Mayor?
My other question was, what was the number of years for the previous contract?
I think it's 5.
I believe it's 5.
5 years. Normally 5 years.
And we're already into our second month of this contract period, which was, I guess we could say, waiting for approval.
Correct. But again, like the attorney mentioned, and I mentioned before, interim agreement, moving toward a long-term contract. And certainly the long-term with full input from our council and theirs.
Other,
This will not be the last time you have a conversation on that, I promise.
okay. Other comments or questions? Okay. Committee, have anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
Alrighty, that being said, and let the record reflect that Councilwoman Green is not on the dais at this time. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, you do have before you the proposal or the interim agreement to be considered, and that being the interim local agreement between the town of Magonia Park and the city of West Palm Beach for fire services. As stated in the agreement before you and as discussed, what is your pleasure as it relates to the agreement?
Mayor, I think we consider approval for an interim agreement between the town of Magonia Park and the city of West Palm Beach Fire Services, effective October 2020.
Thank you so much. A motion has been made to approve the interim agreement. Is there a second?
Second.
Has been properly moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion? Righty, and Councilwoman Green is approaching the dais, and we'll give her a chance to be seated, and then we'll take the final vote. Okay, again, for the record, a motion has been made and seconded that we approve the interim interlocal agreement between the town of Magonia Park and the city of West Palm Beach. This is item 7B for fire services effective October 2020. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Albert,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember McConnell,
Yes.
and Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Thank you so. My apologies. Thank you so much. That is the last item we have in terms of our action agenda. So at this point in time, we're going to go to the floor for any public comments, if there's any comments from the public. And we'll just ask you to state your name and address as you come forward, and we'll also give opportunity for those who are on our Facebook and or Zoom to comment as well.
Thank you. My name is Omari Hardy. I live at 2181 North South Union Avenue. And I am the state representative for District 88, which includes, among many municipalities, it includes the town of Magonia Park. And what I'll say is about 2 weeks ago, I had an opportunity to do something that I did not imagine I would be doing early in life, which is to walk onto the floor of the Florida House of Representatives and raise my hand and swear an oath to do right by the people of the state of Florida, but also, more importantly, right by my constituents here in District 88. And I intend to do that. You guys were talking earlier about water utility and rate. These are difficult times. these are difficult times for a lot of people. We still have over 600,000 unemployed people here in the state of Florida. That's about twice the amount that we had this time last year. And these difficult times are reflected in the decisions that we have to make as people who are governing. And it comes back to that word that was put out there earlier by Mayor Albury, representative government. We're going to have to go up there, the 120 of us who are part of the Florida House and the 40 members of the Florida Senate, we're going to have to go up there and engage in difficult discussions with one another about the direction that the state should take at what is a really difficult time. Probably the most interesting and challenging time in the state's history since maybe the Civil Rights era. We have a once-in-a-century pandemic. We have racial reconciliation that needs to get taken care of. And then we have all the normal things of how to get the economy back on track, how to make sure that our schools are operating properly at this time. And so those are the things we're going to be focused on. When you talk about representative government, what my mother would say, or what my grandmother would say is, don't forget where you come from. That's what that would be, right? And so I come from District 88. I represent people here in this community. This is a largely working class community. These are folks, our constituents are people who need us to stand up and be strong for them and to be principled for them, and so that's what I intend to do. Now, on the business matter, there's a reason why the town of Montgomery Park was the first city that I came to. My predecessor had an office here. I would certainly like to continue that arrangement. The town of Montgomery Park is central to this wing of the district. The district is shaped a lot like a dumbbell. There's a big weight down in Delaware Beach. There's a connecting piece in between Delaware and West Palm Beach, and this is the other half, the big weight of the district. And the town of Montgomery Park is central to this part of the district. And I think it would do good service to the people in District 88 to have an office here. And so if that's something that the council and the city manager would like to entertain, then that's something I would certainly be very interested in continuing. So I want to thank you. I want to thank Mr. Metcalf for inviting me here. I want to thank you guys for your service. Some of you I've gotten to know through other outside organizations. Some of you I've only just met today. I look forward to deepening my relationship with you, forming a relationship with you. It's my job to advocate for you and your constituents because we're representing the same people. So I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be an amazing opportunity to be good people for the people of the state of Florida and for the people of District 88 for the town of Montgomery Park.
Well, thank you so much. Okay, we appreciate the representation. Thanks. Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be very short. Most people know how I am about my young men of color. And I just have to say one thing. This is the first time I've met a young man, Mayor Albury, who knows what I mean when people talk about the Peter Principle. I didn't tell you that. When I mentioned it, you knew what it was. I'm very impressed. But Mayor Albury, was reading about a young man, somebody named Omari Harvey. Mispronounce your name.
Harvey.
And I kept reading and reading and reading, and I'm going, who is this? And then finally put his picture in the paper. And so I knew you before I saw your picture. And with that, and what I've learned from you, I'm just going to say that, and I think that I'm honored to say that Montgomery Park will be well represented, Mayor Albury in Tallahassee, and we are honored. And what really is impressive is that you sat here during the entire meeting. And thank you very much. And we are glad that you represent us. I know I am. That's all I have to say.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Other public comment? Okay. Just before we come back, other public comment? If there's any other comment from the floor and/or Facebook or Zoom? Okay. We'll just give that delay time. I'm sorry, Councilman Smith, you had a question while we were waiting to see if we have anything? Okay.
I'm going to be brief as well.
Okay.
Because I can be long-winded, but I'm going to be brief.
Okay.
I want to at least give the floor opportunity to anybody else before I speak.
Okay. So we're just about there, the 40 seconds.
Yeah.
In just a second. Okay. All right. Let me just honor that there was nobody there. Just acknowledge that. Okay. So at this point in time, if there's no additional comments from the floor, we'll close the floor to public comment. Okay. All right. Thanks. So we'll come back to the dais. Councilman Smith and Vice Mayor.
see this young man in the building. And one thing I can say, in the brief moments and that I've been affiliated with him, when this man says he's going to do something, he don't just talk it, he does it. And so I know that you will represent District 88 well in Tallahassee. Usually politicians say a lot of things, and sometimes they fall off the cliff. But I'm not saying that you're going to claim that I expect and know that you will do what you say because you've demonstrated that. And it is challenging out there. There's a lot going on. Fair Florida's got a lot of things going on, as you have stated. So I'm not trying to take the thunder. But it's a lot of things that need fixing. But it takes leaders and talents and people that are committed. And so you are to be commended. Roll up your sleeves, you got work to do. And I know you'll do a fine job. I enjoyed you in the BEO. And so I work with you personally there, you know, it's free. I expect great things for you in Tallahassee. And so go do your thing. Appreciate you.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, I'm always glad to see young people who are willing to step out and step up. And I appreciate what you have done already. Obviously, you've already acquired respect to be able to win the vote. So something you've been doing is successful. Continue with that. And since you started with Magnolia Park, I know you won't forget about Magnolia Park. And I do hope you'll be able to have an office nearby so you can frequently visit our town meetings. Okay? We're looking forward to your service in this area. Even though we don't have a school, we have school issues. Even though we don't have a library, we have a library needs. And even though we have a lot of commercial customers in our area, we also have loyal residents. So we look forward to you making the proper considerations that meet the needs of our community. Thank you very much.
Okay. And I never ever want to mess up a very eloquent response, but just one minor correction. We have a satellite library.
Thank you. I'm sorry. We do have the satellite library.
Right, we have a satellite library, yes. Okay.
And it has been used.
Yes, okay, thanks so much. McConnell, you have anything to address? Okay.
Yeah, just number one is I appreciate you taking the time to come here. We've had representatives and politicians in the past that never even bothered, like we didn't exist. So we really appreciate you coming. And interested, you got a big job coming up.
Amen.
It's gonna be rough up there in Tallahassee.
Amen.
But you're young and you'll handle it.
Yeah, absolutely. The young are
stand
called
by you.
because they're strong, so. We appreciate this service. And my only response is simply this, that Councilwoman Green stated that until she saw you in the newspaper, I saw the article as well. And so just to that, I say what I've always said, and every so often I say it, and I think you embodied this statement: never be afraid to lose an election by doing the right thing. And you stood up and did the right thing at all cost. It's just whatever the cost was going to be, you stood up and did the right thing. And that to me means more than anything else, that you stood for honor and principle, although always stand for what's right. I appreciate that. Thanks. Okay, so with that, again, so all of what you've gotten is a welcome to District 88. We appreciate it, and we look forward to some great things from you. Okay, all right, so at that, okay, Ken?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, not to mess up these good feelings and this good vibes going on, a lot of good comments. The representative did come with a question that is not an agenda item tonight. So maybe at our December 15th meeting, we can place that on the agenda and council can pass that around and
Well, certainly.
that way we can give
Right, and I would encourage as well, as Ken has stated, in your one-on-ones, just have whatever conversations you need to have concerning the request, and that when we would come, we can come so efficiently and effectively make a decision and move forward.
I didn't hear what we're hashing around. What?
No, the unofficial request, because it's not an agenda item.
What is the request?
The request from Representative Hardy would be, would you consider allowing him, much like we did in previous time with his predecessor?
District office?
Right, to have a district office
Oh,
here.
district office?
Right, but not for
okay.
conversation or consideration tonight. So when you have your one-on-ones with Ken, kind of share information and concerns or whatever you may have. Okay? All right, thanks. So with that, we'll now go to reports. Ken, you're back on.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, thank you again for your time tonight. Thank you, Representative Hardy, for being here tonight. I've enjoyed getting to know you a little bit by email so far, and thank you for being here. Maybe we'll get to see a lot more of each other. I look forward to working with you and your staff, so thank you for being here. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, a couple of things I really want to talk to. I owe the mayor and Councilmember Green an apology, and I'm going to do that publicly tonight. To Ms. Green's point about the agenda, I said I offered everyone the opportunity for agenda review, and I had to remember, I did not offer that to the mayor of all people. So I felt confident that he, knew most of this from our previous conversations. And to Ms. Green's point, you're absolutely correct. I'm off my game a little bit. Was off work last week, and it was a short week. The clerk did an excellent job to get a draft agenda out Wednesday afternoon on a short week. And at the same time, trying to get these, I wasn't here, so she was trying to get these bids in and sorted and everything. And so Sherry's not here tonight, but I commend her on getting the draft out. Being that it's a short week, typically what we do, our goal is for you to have everything a week in advance. In fact, that's what you told me in my evaluation. It stated that. So obviously I want that. Short week, typically we would give you draft agenda Wednesday and then something a little bit more substance on Friday. And then in between all of that, I do try to do the one-on-one agenda review. So to Ms. Green's point, I apologize. I don't know what happened with our emails going back and forth. I believe you when you say you didn't receive it, and I did try twice today. So we'll work all that out. I hope everyone forgives the manager this time. The manager will do better informing me. And I thank all of you that have worked with me for a while. My goal is not to leave council members hanging in a council meeting. So manager will do better there.
Let me just say, thanks so much for the apology. Not needed, at least not on my part. We get together all the time, so even the unofficial meetings 2, 3, 4 times a week. Yeah, but I appreciate it. Thanks.
And we talked a little bit tonight about the website, and if you will recall, at our last meeting, under the administration report, I did pass out the packets from 4 vendors, if you will. And what I've done tonight is, even though this was clearly put into their proposal, I did a little cheat sheet for everyone so you could see what their price is directly for the setup of the website and for the maintaining it on a monthly and yearly basis, that kind of thing. So, we have a range of prices here. I just want to get some feedback from you on what we need to do next. Do we want to whittle this down to maybe 2 or 3? Do we want to have all 4 do a presentation, even if it's by Zoom or whatnot? Just a little bit more guidance for management, and we're ready and eager. Staff is to move this along. If you were to trim this down to 2 or 3, my goal there is to take those 2 or 3, give it to the staff, and let them really dive into it and engage with those vendors, and then we come back with a firm recommendation. But I thought you should have all the information up front from each. Most of them did list out people that they're working with. A couple of these are working with municipalities already. And even the two that are not seem to be very reputable and seem to have a good thing going. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there for your consideration tonight. If you have any feedback for me, that's appreciated.
Ready? Councilman Green?
We made it. Thank you, man, Mr. Mayor and the town manager. I'm just glad we're here, but I just have a question.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Metcalf, have we compared?
I'm sorry, just before
I'm
you
sorry.
question, let the record reflect that Vice Mayor Johnson has left the dais. Okay, go right ahead. Just acknowledging that Vice Mayor left the dais.
Do we know a comparison? Have we compared it to any other municipality our size? I don't know anything about a web page, but this is a lot of money. Do we know, have we done a comparison, for example?
I looked at, yes, Councilmember Green, yes, we have. I looked at, and I can't remember which ones in all honesty, but there's one or two in here that, North Palm Beach is one of their clients, South Bay, South Palm Beach.
And they pay this much?
I haven't, asked exactly what they're paying, but this seems to be the standard fees for, I don't think any of them are paying $35,000. I'll just be honest.
Oh, I'm not even I'm not even talking about the number two, because he can forget it. But I'm looking at the lowest, believe it or not, and I thought that was expensive. That's why I was asking, had we done a comparison with anyone else to see is that a fee? But if you say that's a going fee, I'm fine. That's all I have to ask. Oh, one other thing, how long does it take for him to set it up?
4 to 6 months. And
Oh,
that's
yeah, all right.
Consistent with all of them.
Okay.
That's consistent with all of them. I will say that, on these prices, you notice it says total to start. You do have a building fee, and then you have an annual, I guess you would call it maintenance fee. What's important to staff, I know already, is for the staff to be able to upload documents directly from here. Currently, we don't have that ability, and that does hurt us. So that's one thing we're gonna need, and I'm certain all 4 of these will provide that.
Would be able to ask them, for example, I'd like to know questions like this. I know you're working with them and the mayor, but would we be able to ask whoever we select that will they be able to get emails from everyone and be able to use their emails some kind of way? Because that gets the information out faster. But will we have an input in asking them questions, whoever we select?
Your question is, do you get to ask questions?
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, if council wants to have like an interview session or something like that, even if it's by Zoom, certainly, we'll set that up.
I would like
And
to.
I've been forewarned that may be the case.
Righty. Vice Mayor Johnson has rejoined the dais. Other questions or comments? Okay, just needed to acknowledge her return. Okay. Righty, just real quick. Now, Municode, of course, is the entity that sort of memorializes all of the municipalities' documents and various other things. Do you know, and if you don't know at this point, what cities they hosting for? 1 or 2 or 3, so we can kind of go out and take a look.
What, Mayor?
Municode.
The Municode.
Municode, yeah, they work with governmental entities.
Oh, good question, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so all of our documents, those kind of things are memorialized and crystallized by them, preserved by them as well. If you don't know, I could do some research.
I do know that Civic Plus and Unicode both have municipalities in Palm Beach.
Yeah, I knew Civic did. Okay, so we'll take a look. Okay.
And that is in the proposals, they did list out who their clients are.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much. All righty. Any other questions as it relates to just the initial information for us? Okay, thanks. Anything else, Ken?
Just to give everyone a heads up on December 20th. December 20th, which is a Sunday, beginning at 2 p.m. at the park. We're going to have our toy giveaway, our annual toy giveaway. Certainly with COVID, it has to be a little bit different this year. So similar to how we did the food distribution on that one Saturday, there'll be registration, pre-registration. Parents have to fill out a form. We alert them, that this is the time to come up, beginning at 2 o'clock on that Sunday. They come in, we verify who they are, and we already have the goodies and/or toys ready. They pop the trunk, we put it in the trunk, they drive off. It's going to be that succinct and that quick. Certainly, we're open, as we've said all along, to your consideration and your suggestions, but right now we feel like that's the best way to go. We're ready to get the, Sherry calls them, the big letters out to our businesses and begin shopping. And I think the deputy clerk has something to add to that.
Okay, I believe that this is probably delayed because now I have a comment from Alicia Webb, but I did tell her that public comment was closed, but she was stating that now that marriage, is not a hot topic, what are plans for the youth?
She's right.
And then also, I'm not sure who HMCDI is, but it's the person stated that the town can have availability to upload those documents on their website, but it requires building a CMS. I'm not sure who HMCDI is.
Okay. All righty. To the question, there is a resident who has a question, a public comment. There's a resident who has a question. Public comment was closed, but with your pleasure, we'll entertain the question. Okay. All righty. So we'll go right ahead. There's a resident who has a question, so we're going to entertain the question at this time, with your pleasure. Okay.
I didn't hear the question.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Okay, basically, Resident Alicia Webb is saying that now the marriage is not a hot topic. She's asking what are the plans for the youth? What plans do the town have for the youth?
Okay. Councilwoman Green?
I want to understand, do you mean the plans for the development? What are they going to have in the development for the youth?
No, I think she's just, I believe she's asking in general.
In general.
Magnolia Park.
Magnolia Park? I don't, what kind, you mean,
For the youth, children.
what do you mean? You mean literacy, athletic plans? What kind of plan? That's what I'm talking about.
Well, former Councilwoman Webb's always been actively involved with youth, the youth development and stuff like that, so.
That could be a library, or that could be a park. And so that's what I mean by specifically what kind of plan
Right.
is what I'm asking. She could,
Well-
she heard, I'm sure she knows what we're talking about. She'll let us know.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
And if we look back to our capital plan,
Mhm.
focusing on what we have already in line for our youth, we need to probably pull those out and put them in action. I think that's basically what she's asking. Are we gonna put something in action for the youth? I know we had the youth, council that was very active, and I definitely made reference to them about 2 months ago, and we need to keep them active, and we had a young professionals group that came, and I would like to see them be able to fold together so that they can have an opportunity to exercise their desire was to work with the senior citizens in the town to provide services to the senior citizens. I think that's a great idea. I don't know if you've had the youth council in session since the distinctive, was it Young Americans or Young something distinctive, young people who were the full title, I don't remember, but it was distinctive youth, I think. We can still pull that together and put active plans in place. I think that's very important that we do that.
Okay, Councilman Smith and Vice Mayor Green. Councilwoman Green.
All right, as I stated when Councilwoman Green was trying to understand what, previous Councilwoman Webb was talking about. She's always been charged about, keeping the youth involved, and our role as a town of providing avenue for the youth. And so we need to probably revisit that. No, not probably, but definitely revisit that. But I do want to put this plug in there as we revisit that and get active and give youth in this town avenues and places to go and things to do. We also have to be careful because COVID is still here. So we have to be cognizant of that. I'm not saying that we can't, but cases are multiplying in the county. So let's not lose focus on that. I'm not saying that we can't get back involved, and we all have can get active in and get our hands into it, because we do need to, because there's a lot of youth in the town and they need things to do. If they're bored, me and former Councilwoman Webb talk about it all the time. They get bored and they need things to do. But we also have to be cautious of COVID, for people to get sick.
Councilwoman Green?
I'm glad she asked that question. I thought she was referring to the project Meritage, but we still can, because even when the project is built, which is great, maybe we're going to get to it because I think it has only one phase. There could be a swimming pool. Tiffany Lake even has a swimming pool. Okay? You don't even have a park going in it. You don't even have a playroom for the kids to even have a reading room where they can play bingo and anything to exercise their minds. But whatever it is that we need to be specific about naming the program. Don't say we need programs for the kids. Just name them, put them down, write them. And so maybe people don't like to hear the word committee. It's a good thing, Vice Mayor Johnson, we could set up a committee that could handle that, because that is very significant. But it may be poor timing because of the virus, but we have time to work on it now. So when the virus is over, we praise God, that those specific programs will be specific, written down, where a kid can look at a list and say, I want to learn to play bingo. I want to learn to play chess. I want to learn how to swim. I want to learn how to read. Those are the types of programs that we need for our children, especially children of color. The kids in Mangonia Park have absolutely nothing.
Okay. Roddy? Just.
That's what she's speaking. She's basically saying what our plans to move our community forward, especially our youth. Modeling, leaving, and legacy is very important. She wants to just know overall plans. That's what she's saying.
Okay. Let me sort of answer, sort of segue from what Councilwoman Green was stating. As it relates to just strategizing, this is the most opportune time, to blame the virus because we can't do in-person things. We have to take advantage of the opportunity given to us, this downtime, so to speak, to actually strategize. So, in direct response to her, some of the things that we can begin to do is to restart the youth council. That can be done via Zoom, just to kind of restate it, re-implement it, because now during those meetings, and Vice Mayor can attest to this, the young folks just put them in charge. You tell us what you would like to see. And they came up with a lot of ideas, because all too often, those of us who are now 35 like me, y'all caught that? Okay. But those of us who are, those of us who are a little older, while we think that we still know what our young people like, sometimes we miss. And so it's good to get them involved. So we can restart the youth council via Zoom. We can restart our after-school program and our reading programs via Zoom. I know during the summer we did that. We can still do that, and so we have the ability to do that. We can initiate our partnership with the Young Distinguished Men of Palm Beach County. Their whole organization is set to help lift up our seniors. While, again, some things can't be done in person, there's still some things that can be. We have just a wealth of experience here in Palm Beach County. Dr. Jean Malecki, the Palm Beach County, who's still the director of the Palm Beach County Health Department, has very knowledgeable individuals in the epidemiology department that knows how to come out and do training as it relates to social distancing, infection control protocols to ensure that people are taught that even though when you do get together, here are some of the safeguards to ensure that you are safe and we're not spreading the virus, so that when it's necessary, for instance, the young distinguished men, I think that they kind of do painting and all of the other well, we get our young folk involved in that. One of their civic duties. We teach them how to become civic minded, right? And so that when we go to identify a senior's house, to go paint, do grass, whatever it is, we're social distancing while still getting the job done. So there are a lot of things that we can do. So I would charge all of us, let's start with these 4 to try and get our youth back involved. So, and then we can continue to build the list, but at least in terms of just something substantive, let's start with these 4, because I think that's what she's looking for, and our young folks deserve it. So that's a suggestion. Let's kind of get started there, and any other ideas we have, we continue to build on it. Okay? Okay? Okay, all righty, thanks. So any other comments or questions from online?
I'm going to go back to the toy giveaway, December 20th. Certainly, we'll take your input, give me a call, or come by and see me, we can talk about it. But and obviously, that's one thing. That's one thing we can talk about. And we do have a suggestion from the public saying maybe we could do it here rather than the park. I mean, we're open to whatever, and we still could do the trunk deal and all of that, so no issue there. So we'll consider that as well. But very soon, within the next few days, we're going to be getting the information. So if you have a suggestion, let me know. We'll talk through it. And that's that. One other thing I've had in the budget process, you did approve, the attorney's going to throw something at me because I'm not supposed to use this word. You did approve bonuses for employees, and I think when you passed that, there was conversation about that being considered at mid-year. Mid-year to us and mid-fiscal year is late March, early April. I've had a couple of employees approach me very nicely and say, is there any consideration that the bonuses could be extended to the eligible employees for Christmas? So I apologize, I didn't get to have that conversation with most of you prior to springing this on you, but I did promise the employees that I would bring that up tonight. So obviously that's not an agenda item, but I wanted to float it out there and see if I got any comments one way or the other.
Okay, comments?
I do have a comment on that. It was discussed in a preliminary meeting. I thought it was, it's a consideration we can make. I would suggest that we look at maybe a portion of the bonus, because the bonus is really reflecting over time span of service and their work, right? So if we would give the full bonus now, then there may be slack later on and we have to wait to consider. But if we have a portion, maybe half of the bonus, I think that would be something we can consider.
Okay. Other comments or suggestions, recommendations, ideas? Now, just again, refresh everyone's memory. Now, that the additional pay, additional temporary pay, how's that?
Correct. It's not actually a bonus, just so the record is very clear. We use that word, but that's not lawful. That's not what they are.
Right. So the additional temporary pay that we're considering. Now, was that performance-based? Just remind us. Was that performance-based, or did we just have just a flat consideration, or?
Yes and yes. I think the idea was, and I recall the conversation, Vice Mayor, I didn't go back and listen to the workshops, but my recollection was, and I stand to be corrected, that we were gonna look at this mid-year, we were gonna look at our finances
Mhm.
and see if it was doable. The amount that we were considering, that we did budget, was $2,000. And that anyone, this is my recollection, anyone that was not currently on probation or had a write-up or on an improvement plan could be eligible to receive the additional pay. So if it, if it needs to be tied into the evaluation, that's
Okay.
certainly council's.
No, what I wanted to be clear is in terms of, because we had the discussion already, and I was just trying to remember the discussion, if it was tied to performance, and if it was yes, then perhaps, and again, this is just information to be considered, that if it is tied to performance and we haven't had the opportunity to rate performance, then perhaps the suggestion made by Vice Mayor might be one, if we're trying to be considerate of the request, might be to just do the half, and then the other half, when we have the opportunity to do what we actually set out in earnest to do, and it'd be performance-based. A suggestion for conversation?
Well, my recollection is the reason we put it into, the middle of the fiscal year was to make sure we could afford it. I think that had something to do with it.
Our recollection, we had budgeted for it. Not budgeted for it. My recollection, we had budgeted for it. I know we had a lot of conversations based on performance, activities, the money side, we use for a bonus, additional pay. Based on performance, merit. There was a whole lot of conversation about performance.
Okay.
But I do believe in rewarding. And that's just my military background. When a soldier do a good job, you reward them. Like when you counsel a soldier in good, you can counsel a soldier in doing bad, but in this particular case, I'll put the military out. If a staff is doing a job and doing good, and like staff and the manager saying they're having any write-ups, I think they should be compensated or rewarded. And not to be killing money, but compensate them. Now, Vice Mayor, you said give it to them. I don't know. Fragment or a portion of it at a time and not a whole lump sum. I can kind of understand that, but reward them. If you reward your staff, they will go move mountains. And they will put out. So you'd be surprised. I don't know where I'm going with it, but hopefully we can come to some type of agreement and hopefully make this happen.
Okay. Let's hear from Councilman McConnell and Councilwoman Green.
No, I can understand. I mean, I can understand that. I just wanted to bring up, that's the reason that we done that, mid-budget. But no, I'm for rewarding them. I understand that part, and I just wanted to bring up why we done that when we was going through the budget.
Okay. Ready, Councilwoman Green?
But
I'm sorry.
I'm with the majority, whatever we decide, it's gonna work, it's gonna work out one way or the other anyway.
Okay. Thanks so much, Councilwoman Green. Okay.
What?
Well, just trying to see if we get consensus. If we don't get consensus, then we'll have to bring it back as, perhaps as an action. If we get consensus, then we can ratify at the next meeting. Okay. No, we're just giving input as it relates to the request that the town manager brought before us as it relates to the temporary enhanced pay.
You don't want me to tell you how much they need to be given, especially working during this time. Anybody need to be awarded.
Okay, all righty?
We can't afford to give them what they deserve.
Okay, so we'll just stay with the consideration of the 2,000 then. Okay, okay. Right, now, one of the recommendations was, and whatever your recommendation is, but one recommendation, and I think that was agreed by 3, would be that of the 2,000, because it was tied to performance, to give half of it now and then, the other half at the point that the evaluations and the performance has been properly assessed.
Ask a question.
Sure.
I'm not saying I'm against it, but what is the rationale of giving them half?
I'll just restate what I said earlier. I think it's good that we are able to help to support our employees with this additional pay. Although we want to recognize halfway through, if we give them the full reward, we may see a fallback.
And make what?
We may see a fallback. They may not continue to perform because they've already got rewarded. So we want to consider a portion of that, half of it possibly, so we can give them a little help during the holiday season. And then at the end of that, like we said, the mid-budget period, and we can maybe consider the other half at that time.
And Councilman Green?
That was, I felt because of the holiday season was my reasoning for saying the need is so serious now. The season, the virus, if you're going to give me something that I need, that to me, don't give me. That was my feeling. You asked me for my feeling, so keep it on. I need it now.
Okay, ready? So we don't have consensus for the half. Okay. Okay. And just for the record, I'm just trying to foster conversation. Of course, I'm going to abstain from the actual kind of sort of vote, if you will, but just trying to foster conversation so that we have full discussion as it relates to the consideration. Okay, so we have 3 council persons who are saying because they want to honor, at least in part, the purpose of the enhanced temporary pay, that being it be tied to performance, but are willing to say because they do want to consider trying to get something to them now, to do half and then half the other, so that it can be tied to the purpose that it was intended. But we have one council person saying well, she won't know all of it, so we don't have consensus. Since it was not an agenda item, we can only do anything if we had consensus to refer it, to have it ratified at the next meeting, and so we're not there at this point. Okay. Any questions? Is it understood where we are by everybody? Okay. All righty. Anything else, Ken?
That's all I had. Thank you for your time again. Thank you for indulging me a little bit.
Okay. All righty. Captain?
As submitted, unless there's any questions.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Captain?
No, I
Okay.
do have to make a comment from several of my residents in Briarwood and Candlewood are concerned about the noise ordinance and those that have been disturbing the peace with their music band. What can we do? What are we going to do about it? That's basically what they're asking me. I'm bringing it back to you and the council. There is a resident, I guess it's a new resident that moved in to the neighborhood, and they have their backyard band going 5 and 6 and 7 hours, sometimes into the night to infinity, 2 o'clock at night on some nights. And I know several complaints have gone in, so where do we go next?
From what I understand, the the noise issue was coming from an industrial area. Now, without putting too much out, over there, we are looking into that. Now, if it is a residential, issue, I need the location of that residence, and we need to be notified of its progress. And that's through, our non-emergency line, and a deputy will respond out there. And if it continues, then we'll address it, as it happens. But once it's over, it's over. It's something, that's an issue that has to happen in front of the deputy.
Yeah, it has. It has been presented, there's been non-emergency contact reports have been made at the time of the activity.
If you call the TSO non-emergency number,
Call it, text it, yes.
okay, I'll look into it, but texting ain't gonna get you anywhere, because that's a landline number. You have to call the non-emergency number,
Yeah.
688-3400, or, the old town number, we
Eight-four-four number.
848-2513, that's a 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, that's the office number. If you want to reach our dispatch, dial 561-688-3400. You should get a deputy to respond to your location.
Give me that number again, because that's not the emergency number I'm getting last time I asked.
Okay, for you and the audience that's listening, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, main dispatch number, 561-688-3400. 561-688-3400.
That's the non-emergency number?
That's the non-emergency number.
That's the non-number.
Okay. Okay. Just as Vice Mayor is writing to that point, the town has a noise ordinance, and I think at 10 o'clock, I think it is, weekdays, 10 o'clock, if noise exceeds a certain decibel level, then of course it has to be, it has to be cease and desist. It is 11, 12, 1, right? And so I guess what I'm saying is that as the deputies are riding through, and we never ever want to, kill anybody's fun or anything like that, but at the same time, there are people who have to get up and go to work and so forth and need some rest. So just as if they're passing through and it's after 10:01, and the decibel, of course, is bouncing off a wall, so it's beyond what the code states, if they could just kind of let them know that at this point in time, we have to actually, yeah.
Again, from my understanding, this noise was allegedly coming from an industrial area.
No, there is residents who are in the residential lot.
Well, somehow the wires got crossed, because we're actually looking at
Okay.
an area in the industrial area that's allegedly making this noise.
Okay.
Apparently, our efforts are being misdirected.
That is correct. There is an issue.
So that's where we were directing our.
This could be different.
Yeah.
This is
It's different.
Because the
Different.
address was given specifically for Cameron.
561-688-3400, when it's going on.
I had deputies that responded to the number that I called. And they said something, they were sending someone out then.
Okay.
But nothing was done about it.
Did deputy respond? Was the music still going when the deputy arrived?
Yes, it was going on an hour later. I texted you and let you know that.
You texted me an hour later.
But it was still going on then.
Texted me, you're gonna get the same result. You want to be asked to call the non-emergency number. I'm urging you, if you are having a law enforcement issue, please call the non-emergency number and the deputy will respond. Now, if you call me direct, you're still gonna run into that same roadblock, because I'm gonna need the same information that the deputy's gonna need to respond. So, the shortest and easiest way to get that done, call a non-emergency number, tell them what your issue is, and the deputy will respond. Now, if I am aware that something happened, and if there's a log entry or report form, I will see them. And if you're telling me that something happened and a deputy responded, I can pull that up in CAS as well, so I can see if a deputy did respond to a certain complaint.
Okay, right. And if you could just, and I'm sure you do as well, just sort of remind them, you know, that, yeah, the town has an ordinance at 10 o'clock, and so if you're riding through and you...
And I'm sure they're out patrolling, and sometimes I'm even out there at night myself. So, as a matter of fact, once I leave this council meeting, I will actually go into it. I'm presuming that this is happening in the hill section. So, once I leave here, I'll make a beeline directly over there and check it out myself.
Right. And I think a gentle reminder, you know, that, guys, you're welcome, but at 10...
Right, we're here to help you. And by helping you, you know, I need a little bit of input from you as well. So, if there is an issue that's going on, there's a breach of peace or whatever, please call that number. And there's been some confusion on what number to call. I apologize, but that is our main dispatch number. I can guarantee you call that number, you will reach a dispatcher, and the dispatcher will dispatch the deputy. There is a call for service.
Okay, we appreciate it.
Okay, just so that you understand, the non-emergency number that I was given was 848-2512.
Okay. I'm giving you.
I just want to let you understand that's the number, and I did get a response, and they did promise.
Okay, that's fine. You will get a different, but I'm giving you our main.
Yeah, I have the main number, but this
Okay,
is what I got a response from, I didn't get any response from that number.
See, okay. If you call that number, you'll get it then.
Okay. All right, so going forward, this number here, the 8, I'll put my glasses on. So the 3400. Okay.
And my concern is, the residents are asking me, what do we do now? This report has been going, this has been going on over 3 weeks.
Also.
And 3 and 4 days, especially weekend days, it's been occurring.
And you also have an ordinance. So if there is, if this is becoming a public nuisance, they can also sue. That's what happens. So if it gets to the point where it's creating a problem in the neighborhood, then maybe they can consider speaking to an attorney about suing.
Yeah, I think just the deputy going and saying, you know, this is what the town's ordinance is, so you got to cease at this point.
It is happening when we get there, we can take action.
Okay.
If it is not happening, if they turn the music down when we're there, then that's not an issue happening in our presence. So, if you're saying that there's live music, we pull up, they turn it down, we don't hear it.
Okay. Right. I mean, from the standpoint, and of course, I always defer to the professionals, just from the standpoint of that, if indeed a report goes, that a deputy just go and, you know, even if they turn down, listen, guys, we're getting complaints, and understand at 10 o'clock, loud music has to cease. And again, I think just notifying and reminding them.
And we have no issue with doing it, Mr. Mayor, but again, I just wanted to state what happens in many cases like this. You'll call, law enforcement will show up, there's no issue. If there's no issue going on, then that's all that we can do is go and have a lawyer say, hey, listen, please turn your music down. If they're not committing an offense, then there's no action.
Right.
Other than writing a report.
Right. Understood, but, you know.
If it's a consistent breach of peace in your neighborhood, then there is civil action that you can take.
Right.
No,
No, I understand. No, I understand, but you could achieve compliance by just constantly, hey, I didn't hear it, but I'm still coming. So you get compliance by, I don't want to say aggravation, but you can get compliance by just.
We're actually still a car there, Mr. Mayor. If it gets to that point where there's an issue and we're confident that it's going to stop again, I'll sit a car there. But what I'm saying.
I understand.
You know, there are things that we can do, there are, and, Madam Vice Mayor, if you want to talk a little bit more offline.
Yeah, I think offline would be good.
Then, we'll discuss some, other things that.
Well, certainly. So let's go to our attorney, then Councilwoman Green, and then we'll move.
Yes, sir, thank you. The only other thing I would add is that there also is the code enforcement mechanism. If it is occurring on private property, that could be pursued as well. And I'm not sure the particulars of this property, but I think that may be a discussion.
Okay, Councilmember Green?
That goes back to, excuse me, this has been a very good meeting tonight, and everybody's comfortable and cordial with each other, but Vice Mayor, we were having the same problem in my neighborhood, and I'm proud to say I used that young man right there to get rid of the problems we were having in Bryn Mawr. I took advantage of something that we had never had. It was a black captain. And right now, our neighborhood had to start solving our own problems because we couldn't continue to keep calling the sheriff department. And after I had a meeting in my kitchen with 2 deputies, and I listened to them, and Vice Mayor, what we did, Bryn Mawr right now, the people themselves take care of the people. But we have to go back and take care of our neighborhood and I'd like to speak to you and let you know I don't mind, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but I just like to let you know what we did. And it is, you'll be amazed to see when people know that, okay, it's us, we are the problem. We have to solve our problem, and that's what they did, and that's what we're doing. Now, everybody's not perfect, but we have neighbors getting on neighbors. The biggest problem we had in our neighborhood was the loud music. And we didn't go to him. We went to him and we told him we knew who was doing the music. And the person in the neighborhood lived in front of the person. He went to the person and told him. And it stopped. So we have to start working. And that was why when I asked Mr. Metcalf, remember about the 4 committees? Each one of us up here has a committee. If we do what we are supposed to do, we won't have to continue to call him. That's all I have to say, and that's what we're doing. And I end this by saying one thing. We had something that happened, Mr. Grosser. I've been telling you how Mr. Grosser, we're going to get him, before it's over, we're going to get him too, because that's our neighborhood. We want to take back our neighborhood. And we have never seen mattresses, bed mattresses, that have been in my neighborhood 30 years. And when I told the person who lives next door, I said, that's your neighbor. Okay, that's code enforcement. But I didn't come to the person over code enforcement.
Okay.
I went to the neighbor, and the neighbor went to that person and told that person. It never happened again. And you can see the difference, but we have to start within the neighborhood ourselves, letting each other work together to take care of the problem because they know what the problems are. But each one of us each council person up here has a department we are supposed to work with, and we are not doing it. And so, I'm talking about myself too, and I stopped running for him. But what I did was when we did the email thing, I put your picture right in the middle. This is our contact person. This is what we're supposed to do. You have a problem. These are the numbers you call, and this is what. And it's beautiful, and it's working. So
it's not a violation.
we can't keep letting other people solve our problem, but to solve our own. And I know you don't want to hear it. That's why you're talking, but I said them through.
Okay. All righty. Captain, then we're going to move from this. Hour's getting a little late.
Apparently there's a secondary issue with the noise, but I would say, I did speak to you this afternoon, and we were in the process of putting together an action plan to address some issues that town manager brought to my attention and some of the stuff that we observed. So now, the simple thing is add that to our agenda, and for the rest of the month, throughout the new year, you will be seeing additional deputies out in the town as well. Some will be in marked cars, some will be in unmarked cars. So there will be an additional presence in the town. So short answer is, I'll get with you and we'll look into that address and
Okay. All right, thanks. We appreciate it. All right, thanks, Captain. We appreciate it. Okay. Amity?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of brief comments I wanted to bring back to you after the last meeting. There was some discussion about Robert's rules and procedural process when we're at meetings. So I just wanted to bring a couple of high-level comments, and then I'll answer any questions you have and get more specific. But at the last meeting, it was, I think, in the context of a planning and zoning board meeting, but I just wanted to give some general reminders about in the body you're sitting at tonight, which is the council. The mayor is the chair of the council meeting. Your code designates him to act as the chairman, whoever the mayor is. Currently, it's Mr. Alberry, Mayor Alberry. He is tasked with specific things. He calls the meeting to order. He goes through the agenda. He calls for votes. He calls for motions. He does all of the procedural things to ensure that the meeting operates and runs smoothly. In his absence, the vice mayor has that delegated authority under your code. Your code does specifically say that council meetings are run in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order as amended, or such other rules or procedures that the town council may adopt. Now, you have a decorum resolution. That's pretty much the extent. You have a civility disclaimer on your agenda, so there's been some discussion. But generally, your council meetings are operating, albeit not strictly, loosely in accordance with Robert's rules. And those are to ensure that the meetings are run smoothly and that everybody on the council is a fair opportunity to speak and is adequately heard on all the items on your agenda. As for the role of the council, when you sit up on the dais, you all are on the same, I'll say, level playing field, the same even keel, right? You all operate, the mayor has a different authority in terms of procedural process and making sure the meeting runs, but you all are afforded the same opportunity to speak, to be heard. You certainly have an obligation under those rules to act with a modicum of decorum, be professional, be respectful, be civil toward each other. There is a process for allowing deviation from those rules. It's done, I won't say regularly, but somewhat routinely. And when that happens, there's consensus built amongst the council to ensure that you can deviate from that process. But in terms of who is presiding over the meeting, on this body, it is the mayor, and in his absence, it is the vice mayor. Robert's Rules of Order, they're actually very complicated rules. They were drafted for parliamentary purposes. You're a much smaller body than that, but as I said, generally all local government meetings follow them to some degree. The strictness with which they're followed deviates kind of across the board and even to some degree across the meetings. But generally you're following them, and that's what your code prescribes. If you have specific questions, I can try to address them, but I just wanted to be clear that that's how you're operating, and that's how you have operated for certainly as long as I've been involved, and certainly as long as our firm has been involved.
Okay, you have questions for our meeting? Okay, Councilwoman Green?
I'd just like to say one thing. Before I even became an elected official, I used to watch council meetings, not council meetings, the government meetings in the House of Representatives, especially county commissioners. And I think it would help us a lot if we mention the word decorum is our number one problem. And it helps a lot when you look at how other people do things and you learn from them. And I'll be one to say that I was quite embarrassed at our last meeting. I don't think I have been disrespectful to anyone. I try not to be. And I don't think Robert rules are that difficult. Not to me, because I have watched people who are good at it. And the county commissioners meetings and the school board meetings are good examples for whether it's Boca, Mangonia Park, Lake Park, those meetings are carried through very professionally. And I just like sometimes maybe we could look at them and mimic them. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Okay. All right. Just as you were sort of stating, point of order, what does that mean? If the chair, whomever the chair is, calls point of order, what does that mean?
You're trying to, for some reason, there's been a lack of attentiveness to the meeting, and you're trying to get people back on task is typically why those are called.
Okay. And if that fails to happen?
you would continue to do it until you get the meeting back in order. But again, I mean, I don't know in all the meetings I go to that strict adherence, I mean, these rules were intended for, as she said, groups of 100, 150 people when there is a pervasive, ability for the meeting to get out of control just because of sheer number of people on the council or on whatever the body is. Here, you're a relatively small group, and there are in fact rules in Robert's Rules of Order specifically for smaller groups, which are looser rules than the strictest of strict rules under Robert's Rules. So they're used, and you are adhering to them to some degree. Your meetings typically don't require that level of intervention to get the meeting back on track. But the only other thing I'll say is that as council members, no one council member has the right or should be trying to dominate the meeting or dominate the discussion. Comments made should be germane to the agenda item being discussed. Just in the same regard, no one council member should have the ability to prevent another council person from speaking or prevent a member of public from speaking. As I said, the best way to think of yourselves up on the dais is you're all on the same level playing field. If you want to deviate from the rules, you need to get consensus from your body to do so. Otherwise, you're all there, in the same role.
Okay. So let me just make sure that we clearly understand. How in this process that we operate in, how does debate get ended, or conversations? How does that come to an end?
So if you have a logjam per se, and there's repetitive comments or repetitive conversation or just a lack of progress in the discussion, you would then go back to getting consensus from your council to move forward, to stop discussion, to limit discussion, to do whatever it is to clear the jam, essentially. But you would need to build that through consensus and get your majority of council members to approve that.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
In that regard, if there is someone speaking that's being constantly interrupted by others, and there's total disrespect for the speaker, what mode of communication should be used to break order to?
I think, as the mayor was saying, the point of order to stop the meeting for the moment, you could recess if it got to that level, to take a minute, come back to order. There are a multitude of ways to do it. Again, as a governing body, though, you should, at each meeting, be respectful of each other, and govern yourselves accordingly. But there are, as he said, point of order is the first way. And if it escalates, there could be a brief recession. That happens at the county commission, most times because of public comment, not because of anything happening on the commission. But those are options before you, for sure.
Okay, other questions, Councilman Smith?
Yes. There have been instances, and that's, not only have I seen it at this meeting, but I've seen it at other meetings, and really it's kind of difficult to talk to discuss. When you're giving a certain allotted time to talk, and when you start to exceed that time, sometimes the person that's speaking goes over. And sometimes I'm noticing it's hard to get that in control. I've seen it in Polish Gardens. I've seen it in Revere. I've seen it here. I don't know about Lake Work. I never attended Lake Work. But what protocol to kind of fix that or get that in check?
Again, you would have to go back to your consensus building amongst council to either allow for additional time, move the conversation on. But again, if you're going to deviate from the strict, the item is heard, you have full council discussion, you put it to the public, and then you have a vote. If you're going to deviate from the normal progression of how motions and how agenda items are acted upon, you need to go back to council and get consensus to deviate from that process.
What I'm saying, when you're at the podium giving permission to speak, you're giving, let's say you're giving 2 minutes or 3 minutes. whatever the case may be. So that's going to be a decision.
Sure, so if it's in the context of public comment, the chair of the meeting, so in this case the mayor, if there were public comment tonight that were exceeding the allotted time, the chair would be within his rights to, and a lot of jurisdictions have a time clock, to say, please conclude your comments, you've reached the maximum time. There have been instances, and there are instances where public comment is opened more than one time. That's certainly allowed, and that's done, just as I said, by getting consensus of the council to allow the floor to be reopened to public comment. But and your decorum resolution does speak to that public participation, it spells out how the public can participate. The mayor is typically very clear, or the chair of P&Z, whatever the case may be, that you have 3 minutes for public comment. And again, should you deviate from the standard requirement or the standard limitation, which is the 3 minutes, there would need to be consensus from council to deviate from that.
And I asked, well, I want to get some clarity on it, and I probably should start paying attention to it more. I know there's a certain template that I can watch to understand it even more. But I've seen people get escorted out of or not complying, for lack of better words, because they exceeded, and even they were asked, they got escorted out of the meeting.
And that, you're absolutely right, and that happens in many jurisdictions. That's why most jurisdictions have some procedural rule, some resolution is passed to establish the ground rules so that everybody operates within the same pre-established ground rules that have been approved, so that if there is an escalation and there is a failure to follow those rules, there is a process by which they can be ultimately escorted out. Now, there's a series of warnings and things that have to happen, but that's precisely why those are in place, is to set the ground rules, if you will.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Ready? Anyone else? Councilman Green?
Another meeting I like to look at is the League of Cities meetings. I like to watch their meetings. I learn a lot from them watching them also. What else?
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. Anything else? All right. And one of the difficulties when you're dealing with your contemporaries, of course, and as Councilwoman stated in League of Cities, you're not of the same collegial body, so those rules as it relates to what she's just described, particularly as it relates to our council meetings or council meetings, are a little different, right? Because you're not on equal footing, because I'm from Magnolia Park, that person's from North Palm, that person's from Boca, and so forth. But when you're of the same collegial body, sitting on a dais, one of the things, of course, and when we implemented the civility clause, it was to make sure that although we're small, that we still have civil discourse and respectful and respected meetings. Because once it goes off the rails, nobody's really listening, everybody's yelling and shouting and so forth, and those are the kind of meetings you never want to have. And in fact, we seldom have them. They happen maybe once a year, twice a year, maybe at best. And so we're, as you stated, I've gone to other municipalities, and oh boy, yeah, some of them are rough. And then some of them are very docile, almost boring. And for the most part, our meetings are boring. That's why nobody, they're boring. But then sometimes when there's a big issue like there was last week, I understood that this is a very contentious subject. People are not wearing it in their heart, they're wearing it on their sleeve at that point, because when you really object to something, you're passionate about it, and I understood the passion, right? And so I take responsibility from the standpoint of, should the gavel have been used at several points? Yes, as it relates to the procedure. But as Mitty stated, in terms of the latitude, you have to sort of understand that we're dealing with a very sensitive issue, and people are passionate about the issue. So some things were allowed to take place, but then when it started looking, and in every meeting, I'm watching the clock to make sure that I give appropriate time to everybody to speak, whether it's the public or up here. So when I'm sitting here and I'm writing down names, yes, Councilman, yes, and I'm acknowledging as I see councilpersons raise their hand or whatever. So every councilperson has an opportunity to speak. They're never not given an opportunity to speak. What happens quite oftentimes is that as I'm looking at the clock, I'm actually, I've already known that a councilperson has spoke for 10 minutes on a subject, right, or 20 minutes on a subject, And that's why I asked, at what point in time does conversation or debate end, right? So if indeed we have to, and according to Robert Rules of Order, it simply states, one, since I begged the previous question, debate ends at that point. It's not even, and then it's considered, right? So if we're going to look at the actual technical requirements of Robert's Rules of Order, not a problem, we can do that. But we would have to go through, and this is not demeaning or anything, we would have to go through a course so that when those things happen, regardless of whomever the chair is, when those things happen, particularly when you're ending a debate, when somebody, I beg the previous question, we would have to know what that means at that point in time. Although I still got a lot to say, sorry, you've been preempted by, I'll get to you. I see you, I'll come right to you. You've been preempted by one of your counterparts who've said, I've heard enough, we're just rehashing everything again, right? There's no new information. Quite oftentimes you hear me say, is there any new information? Because we've chewed up the piece of information that we've been talking about for a long time, and it has become repetitive, right? And the meeting has gone off the rail. Okay, so I got 35 seconds to go. I'm watching the clock. Okay, right. So, so you have to be attuned to that and sensitive to it. But again, for the most part, our meetings are boring. They're civil, as anyone could attest to. I have people all the time, man, you guys have some great meetings. You ought to come to my city. And every now and then it goes off the rail, just depending upon the situation and the subject matter. And that happened the other night. And I take my part of the responsibility for it. I'm big enough to say that falls on me. So, okay. Councilwoman Green, and then we're going to.
I know it's getting late, but I'd just like to say something, Mayor. I hear you, but that's what I like about Robert's rules. There are no emotions. Robert's rules don't change, no matter where you are, who's speaking.
Mm-hmm. True.
They remain the same.
Mm-hmm.
So if you follow Robert's rules, you don't, all the emotions and putting yourself in, you are not supposed to do that. Like our attorney said, Robert's rules follow. You follow those, you never go wrong.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
But you have to learn them.
Yep, got a pocket version of it, and yeah, so you're right, you got to know them. Right. Okay, other comments or questions as it relates to our informational teaching moment? Okay, oh, thanks, I appreciate it. Okay, well, certainly. Okay, anything else, Amity?
No, the only thing, I'm certainly, as meetings progress, feel free to either ask me at the meeting, during the meeting. You all can always call me anytime if you have specific questions, because as I said, the rules do you can get a little bit into the weeds on some of the rules, but I'm happy to answer any questions as we continue to go along. Thank you.
Well, certainly, we appreciate it. Okay, all righty, thanks again. And so at this point in time, we'll move to council comments. Councilman McConnell, have anything?
Nope.
Okay, Councilman Smith?
No.
Okay, Councilwoman Green?
No.
Okay, Vice Mayor? Okay, all righty, I have nothing either, but I'll speak on behalf of the administration. Ken is too kind to ask of you. As long as we're not getting in the way every Christmas time, the holidays and the events we have, I'll come over and try to do the best I can and not get in the way. If you need some additional help, kind of call out to council if you need counsel. Okay. All righty. Okay. So with that, if there's nothing else. Okay. All righty. Okay. All righty. So a motion has been made. If there's nothing, okay. All right. With council's pleasure, we go to the floor for a quick moment. Just before the vote. Okay, so with council's pleasure, there's a resident who wants to speak, but we need your pleasure. We've closed the floor to public comment. With your pleasure, we'll go to the floor.
Let him speak.
Okay, I need to get. Okay, all righty. So we'll go to the floor. Okay, all righty. So you have 3 minutes. They say it. Okay, 2. Okay, okay, all righty. And just state your name and address for the record.
I just want to say that if you guys move forward with the developers and the deal back there, I just hope you guys got some stipulations in place with these people. Don't just come in and make sure they stick to the contract and what they're supposed to do. If you guys want to move forward, I was thinking about they're talking about building a wall and stuff like that. Make sure are you going to put cameras in there and it's kind of odd to me that cameras would be back there in the new development, and there's not none in front. It just seemed a little odd, but just pressure these guys to stick to what they said they're going to do, and 2 years down the road, they're doing something totally different. It shouldn't be like, another thing I was wondering about kids in the neighborhood, I've never seen 45th America, Australia, countries. I don't know who pays for the Christmas decorations for the kids. On the light poles, in the media, just something. It's been a rough year for kids, for us, for y'all, for everybody. And I was just wondering if I never seen it ever happen in Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who pays for it, but just something to throw out there. But as long as you guys, just press these people to do what they say they're going to do, and let the people of Montgomery get some kind of relief that, hey, we're on these guys. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're not wavering right or left, and bring some kind of relief. So if they move forward, just make sure they do what they're supposed to do.
Well, absolutely. And the 10-second responses, and that's where we really need resident input as well. And just speak with Ken, and he'll tell you all of the meetings we've had to exhaustion. Right, so we help us shape and mold that. Absolutely, we need your input. Okay, Councilman Green.
And if I may, I'm sorry, can I just make one comment just before you speak, Madam? Would that be appropriate?
All right.
Can I make one comment before you speak, just because the public comment was about a development project? If we could limit discussion about the particular project, that will be coming back
Correct.
before you, so
Yes.
I don't want,
Yes.
I would advise that we not have a belabored conversation, because that's not an agenda item tonight.
You're correct.
Thank you, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Don't mind about the Christmas. Every year we say we're going to put up Christmas decorations. Are we going to do it this year? At least on the pole.
Well, Ken, well, before you do, here's where I've never thrown anybody under the bus, so move out of the way, Ken. The bus is getting ready to roll. Whatever happened to the flag decorations on the poles? Explain that.
What's some candy canes up?
It's 9 o'clock. Okay, right ahead, Ken.
Hello.
My apologies, that's an alarm, 9 o'clock alarm, so it wasn't the phone, so my apologies. No, I have a 9 o'clock alarm set. Okay.
It was just a simple fact, Mr. Mayor, of time ran out, and the budget year ran out, and we just did not bring it back for reconsideration. That's on me. I'm not saying council didn't bring it back. The manager hasn't brought it back yet. So.
Okay, and when is your evaluation due again? When is your evaluation due again?
I believe that would be September.
Okay, Councilman Smith, and, okay, we're wrapping up. Councilman Smith? I saw your hand, no?
We are doing the 20th.
Yes, that's on the 20th?
You know, we are trying to continue the tour thing, so, you know, we can eliminate that. It may be a little different because of what's going on, but you're right in this statement about the kids and stuff. So we're going to tweak that. So you kind of arrived late, so that's still going to take place in that year for the residents. So it's not, that's a start in the right direction. So
Right.
not much, but
Well, certainly. And in short, I'm sorry, you had the floor.
that's all I have.
Right. And in short, what I was specifically making mention of, you know, those decorative flag poles, you know, that they have on, you riding by the banners on the poles. Right. So, yeah, we had discussed and we were going to be purchasing those so, right. But what we can do within our ability, and we're still in the sunshine, so, is give direction to the town manager, administration, to put a tree out by the, we do decorate inside here, but also at the Civic Center to put up something, some decoration there, so forth, and so we have some at different points in the town, something. So, okay, all right. Okay, so, Vice Mayor?
Yes, I just wanted to say, I love seeing residents here at council meetings. Thank you for coming, even though you didn't make it in when we started, you came in before we ended, so thank you.
That's how you finish.
And I really appreciate the residents that get involved to help reach our goals. So as we're working with our youth, we're gonna need residents to work with these youth in these projects. And whatever we're doing, we need residents participation. And if you're willing, we'll be willing to work with you.
We appreciate it. Okay, so with that, Ken, something real quick?
Just to add to that, we did have 6 on YouTube tonight.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, good, good, great. Okay, so with that, I think we've had, we've covered everything. Is there a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
A second? All in favor, aye? Aye. All same sign. It is carried. And thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening. Have a great, okay? Okay, we'll see you in the next, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Okay, okay, have a great one.
Are we gonna see each other before Christmas? Yep. Okay. Next meeting?
Yeah, the 15th.